Good evening and welcome. City Council is now in session. Please stand for the invocation by Councilmember Butler Barlow, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Microphone. Okay, thank you. Let us pray. As we gather tonight for our last meeting of 2024, we seek to end our year with grace. We give thanks for all the staff, citizens, and officials that have contributed to the work of this city of Suffolk. We affirm all the positive moments of insight, of accomplishment, of creativity, of a sense of community. We recognize the times of struggle, of difficult work, of misunderstandings, even of failure, and we remember these moments so that they may be transformed into new ways of thinking and doing. As we head into the holiday season, we pray for blessings on everyone in our community, for rest and restoration, and for renewed energy for the new year to come. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Freedom of Information Act certification is required at this time. Madam Clerk, please present the resolution for consideration.
A resolution certifying the closed meeting of December the 18th, 2024 pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712 as amended is presented at this time. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Suffolk hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of Virginia law, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the City Council of the City of Suffolk in the closed meeting.
Councilman Fawcett.
Move to approve, Mayor.
A motion for approval from Councilman Fawcett. Councilmember Williams.
Second, Mayor.
Second from Councilmember Williams. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
We'll now move to approval of the minutes from the September 18th, 2024 work session and regular session, and the motion would be in order. Councilmember Williams.
Move for approval.
A motion for approval from Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Rector.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Rector. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
We do have one special presentation this evening, which will be highlighting Suffolk's 50th anniversary celebrations. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Calendar year 2024 was the 50th anniversary of the merger between Nansemond County and the City of Suffolk. Throughout this past year, the city, we as one celebrated this milestone. Director of Communications, Jennifer Moore, will present a look back at the various 50th anniversary events. Jennifer.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City Manager. The City of Suffolk has spent the last 12 months celebrating the milestone 50th anniversary of the merger of the City of Suffolk and Nansemond County. As we close out the year of celebrations in 2024, I would like to share a short highlight reel that captures the essence of the occasion. Please take a look.
Going into next year, 2024, we'll be embarking on our 50th year of essentially the merger of the City of Suffolk and Nansemond County.
And our gateways coming into the city, we're going to kick off with this sign announcing to everybody that we are a 50-year-old community and start celebrating.
For the city, we celebrate 50 years since the merger of Nansemond County to create the City of Suffolk that we know today. The merger was a significant event in the history of Virginia. When Suffolk was born 50 years ago, the year 2024 seems so far off into the future. It's amazing how far we've come.
Come on down! You're the next contestant on The Price is Right, Suffolk 74 edition. Let's boogie on down the road in Suffolk, 1974.
45,000 people lived in Suffolk. Today, over 100,000 people call Suffolk home.
As we embark on our 50th year, this new park becomes an even more poignant addition to our city.
In celebration of our 50 years of growth and progress, we are also unveiling a time capsule today.
So I hope you will join me in imagining the possibilities for your library.
Our public safety personnel celebrate our anniversary by having all sworn officers wear these special badges, and Fire and Rescue has challenge coins issued to personnel to memorialize this occasion.
The Department of Parks and Recreation is going to be planting 50 trees throughout the city to commemorate the 50-year anniversary of the city of Suffolk.
And we're debuting the Suffolk Division of Tourism campaign, Suffolk Like No Other.
Visit a place beyond compare. Suffolk, Virginia.
It's easy to see that after 50 short years, Suffolk truly is like no other.
And I am proud to share that the City of Suffolk has also received recognition from the highest office in the Commonwealth, from the Governor Glenn Youngkin. I'd like to read his letter aloud. On behalf of the Commonwealth of Virginia, congratulations to the City of Suffolk on their 50th anniversary of the merger between Suffolk and Nansemond County. What a wonderful milestone for the citizens of this great city. The merger of Suffolk and Nansemond County represents a creative and beneficial integration of two distinct communities that have long played an important role in the great history of Virginia. By consolidating key resources and providing significant efficiencies, the new City of Suffolk has helped improve the lives of its citizens, support key industries, and promote opportunities for growth and productivity. Since the merger, Suffolk has proudly maintained its special place at the heart of Virginia's world-famous peanut industry and as an important agricultural center of the Commonwealth. It has also further embraced innovation by welcoming new residents and investing in numerous economic development initiatives, affirming its special history and culture while looking to a bright future. The City of Suffolk helps make Virginia the best place to live, work, and raise a family. The First Lady and I hope that the Mayor and citizens of the City of Suffolk enjoy a wonderful celebration of the golden anniversary of the merger. We also wish you the best for the future. Thank you for strengthening the spirit of Virginia. Sincerely, Glenn Youngkin. With that, I'd like to present this letter to Mayor Duman and to Council so they can proudly display this here in City Hall for years to come. Come on down. Take a quick picture too. Right in the middle. Yeah. You want it? Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
At this time, we'll consider the removal of items from the consent agenda and adoption of the entire agenda as presented. Removal of any item from the consent agenda would only be necessary if any member of council wishes to vote on a specific item separately, and a motion would be required. Questions and requests for information on specific agenda items can be addressed during the consideration of the consent agenda after the agenda speakers. Council, a motion would be in order. Councilmember Johnson.
Move to accept consent agenda as presented.
We got a motion for approval from Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Bennett.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Bennett. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Madam Clerk, do we have any agenda speakers this evening? And if so, please explain the guidelines.
There are no individuals registered under this item.
With that being the case, please present the items for consideration.
Agenda item number 7, a resolution to adopt the 2024 edition of the City of Suffolk's Emergency Operations Plan as revised. Consent agenda item number 8, a resolution declaring and rescinding a local emergency. Consent agenda item number 9, an ordinance to accept and appropriate funds from the Virginia Risk Sharing Association for the City of Suffolk Risk Management Program. Consent agenda item number 10, an ordinance to accept and appropriate funds from the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles Animal-Friendly License Plate Program for animal shelter services. And consent agenda item number 11, an ordinance to accept and appropriate additional funds from the Virginia Department of Transportation for the Suffolk Traffic Operations Center project and authorize the transfer of congestion mitigation and air quality improvement program funds from the citywide signal system upgrade project to the Suffolk Traffic Operations Center project.
Mr. Manager, will you please provide an overview of the items?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. In regards to item 7 is a resolution adopting the 2024 edition of the City of Suffolk's Emergency Operation Plan. Every 4 years, the city is required to review, update, and readopt its emergency operation plan. At your work session today, the city's Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator reviewed the necessary updates with City Council. In regards to item 8, on December 5th, in the early afternoon, the city's Department of Fire and Rescue responded to a field fire near Pine View Road and Botts Lane in the Holy Neck Borough. Due to the gusty winds experienced on the day, the fire expanded from 6 acres up to 42 acres. Suffolk crews received backup support from the cities of Portsmouth and Chesapeake in Isle of Wight County. A state of local emergency was declared to allow the city to receive state aid as necessary. The fire was declared under control in the evening of December 5th, and the declaration of emergency was rescinded on December 6th. In regards to item 9, the city has been rewarded $5,000 from the Virginia Risk Sharing Association in support of the city's risk management division. The funds will be used to purchase a web-based software to provide enhancements to building inspections. Adoption of the ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditures of the Consolidated Grants Fund budget by the $5,000. A local match of $1,000 is required and is available in the FY25 Consolidated Grants Fund budget. In regards to item 10, the city has been awarded $1,635 from the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles Animal-Friendly License Plate Program in support of the city's animal shelter services. Adoption of the ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditures of the Consolidated Grants Fund budget by the $1,635. There is no local match. In regards to item 11, it is an ordinance to accept and appropriate $46,839 in congestion mitigation and air quality improvement program funds from VDOT for the Suffolk Traffic Operations Center project, and to transfer $1,056,000 in excess funds from the citywide signal system upgrade project to the Suffolk Traffic Operations Center project. Adoption of the ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditures of the Capital Projects Fund budget by the $46,839 and authorize the transfer of the $1,056,000.
Okay, if there are no questions about the items, a motion would be in order to approve the consent agenda as presented. Councilmember Fawcett.
Move to approve.
Got a motion for approval from Councilmember Fawcett. Vice Mayor Ward.
Second.
Second from Vice Mayor Waters. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
Councilmember Williams, can you please cast your vote? Thank you. The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
We do have several public hearings this evening. The first is an ordinance to rezone and amend the official zoning map of the city of Suffolk to change the zoning from RM, residential medium density, and RC, residential compact zoning district, to RU, residential urban conditional zoning district for properties located at 506 Valor Court and along Hunter Street, a portion of Hunter Street, a portion of zoning map 341, parcel 54B, zoning map 35H, parentheses 1B, parcel D, 4F and 4J. Those are account numbers 103447000, 100309000, 100304000, and 100307000. This is RZN 2024-7 conditional. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of council, if I could say it should be a portion of zoning map 34I instead of 34-1, correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
Okay. The Director of Planning and Community Development, Kevin Wine, will provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mayor, Vice Mayor. This is a project that lies immediately adjacent to a rezoning that you all considered several months ago called Parkwood. Ultimately, that development next door will result in 235 multifamily dwellings and will be developed in conjunction with the Paul D. Camp Workforce Center down there on Carolina Road. As noted as part of the discussion at the time of that rezoning application, the applicant indicated that they were pursuing development on this 6-acre tract immediately adjacent. Ultimately, this would allow for a through street, Hunter Street, to come all the way to Valor Court and onto that Parkwood site as noted. This property is located within our central growth area, and it is designated as our core support use district, as indicated on this map. Like I said, the properties consist of 6 acres in total. 3 parcels and a portion of a 4th are involved in this request. There are multiple zoning district designations that are existing on the parcels in their current form, RM and RC. They are looking to redesignate these parcels RU, that's our residential urban zoning district, that would allow for ultimately 55 townhome units on this site. That would lead to a development density of 9.3 units per acre, which does fall below our 10.9 units per acre as permitted within the RU zoning district. Here you can see that collection of parcels. The parcel is the skinny one on the very left. That is a portion of what is, or what used to be 506 Valor Court. That's a stem there, but that will be a part of this development as well and ultimately connect the two. Ultimately, the plans call for 9 townhome buildings that would result in 55 townhomes total. And here you can see what the renderings look like for the extension of Hunter Street and ultimately that connection to Valor Court, which will allow for a secondary point of ingress-egress for the Greenfield Crescent neighborhood to the south. The developer has proffered 6 individual proffers as a part of this rezoning request, one of which will limit the development to 55 townhomes in total. Some architectural materials to include roofing materials and higher quality building materials. Individual size of the units, elevated crawl spaces or slab foundations, and the improvements as outlined within the traffic impact study that was prepared in support of this application, which does outline that connection to Valor Court as discussed. The Planning Commission considered this item at their meeting on November 19th, and they have moved to recommend its approval to you all this evening by a vote of 8-0. Additionally, staff is recommending its approval with the proffers as submitted by the applicant. That concludes my presentation on this item. I'll be happy to stand by at the conclusion of the public hearing for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, will you please explain the timing system?
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and their address. We will first have a 10-minute period for the proponents, a 15-minute period for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address, and that is to speak in favor of this ordinance.
Good evening, Mayor Duman, Vice Mayor Ward, members of City Council. My name is Grady Palmer. My business address, 999 Waterside Drive in the city of Norfolk. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I want to first of all thank the staff and the Planning Commission for their recommendations. As Kevin talked about, this is a continuation of the Parkwood project that we successfully rezoned earlier this year. Not only did you approve a rezoning for that property, you also approved a conditional use permit for Camp Community College to do workforce development in the old Farmer Joe's shopping store. And so that's underway. I understand that they're doing interior work, but hopefully that comes to fruition very soon. Now, what we heard during that episode was that the Southside Meadows had a number of issues, one of which that community is one way in, one way out only to Carolina Road. And so one of the major benefits of this project will provide a secondary entrance and exit for Southside Meadows. You can see there Valor Court, that's that cul-de-sac there in the middle of the screen. The public road that we will build through our property will allow for that connection. So Southside Meadows, they do experience flooding along Carolina Road that will, in the event that, God forbid that happens again, they'll have access in and out of the backside of their neighborhood to not only for that, but for ease of convenience. So we think this is a really big improvement for Southside Meadows in particular, but in addition, the other in Pleasant Hill, these will open up some of the dead-end streets in Pleasant Hill and offer more direct access through this property to Carolina Road. In addition to the connectivity that this project will provide to existing communities, it will provide housing opportunities for the growing workforce in Suffolk. We need more workforce housing and accessible housing for the workforce here, as you have a lot of employment centers that are coming online. With that, I'll stand by for any questions that you have for us. Mr. Arnett is here, and the coastal developer team is here as well that can answer questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have our next speaker to speak in favor of this ordinance.
Good afternoon, Mayor Duman and the members of City Council. My name is Shamika Council. I reside at 210 Greenfield Crescent. I approve of the new development of Woodland Towns to be developed beside the community that is adjacent to Southside Meadows. This new development will also allow residents the connectivity from Valor Court to the neighboring neighborhoods such as South Suffolk. The children in our community will be able to play at the park. As of right now, they have to play in the community. They don't have a lot of access to the park because the park at Planters Park is really far away. This will also allow residents to have access in and out of Southside Meadows. Right now, we are, I wouldn't say locked in, but if a flood would happen, we can't get out. We don't have no accessibility on the outside in case of emergency. This new development will also bring new business to the area. Right now, we don't have a lot of business out on Holland Road, so hopefully the new development will come over in that new shopping center. We do have the development down by the new Wawa. We have the Dollar Tree that's coming. So I think this will also help as well. It will also bring in tax money. We need taxes. We need revenue from these townhomes. This will also help with funding of city staff and projects and et cetera. So I do approve of this new community coming up right at my backyard. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. We have our next speaker to speak in favor of this ordinance.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I am Ophelia Cahan. I reside at 302 Webb Street here in Suffolk. Having lived 50 of my 71 years in South Suffolk, Pleasant Hill, and I currently live there, I could have purchased a home anywhere in Suffolk, but I chose to return to the neighborhood where I was born and I grew up. So I have a vested interest in this neighborhood, in the community, as I said, where I was born. The project that is before you tonight will be an asset to where I live. The developer has been transparent about this project. It will provide affordable housing so that the working middle class can afford to buy rather than to rent. I am here to show my support of the project and hope council will vote to approve rezoning so that the project can proceed to the next step in the process. Thank you much.
Thank you. We have our next speaker to speak in favor. Do we have anyone else present who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Hearing none, do we have anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition? Hearing no additional speakers, this public hearing is now closed. Council, questions, comments, or a motion? Councilmember Williams?
Mayor, before we proceed, there's one correction that needs to be made to the documents that are attached to the ordinance. There's an error in the voluntary proffer statement. It identifies 35I*54B as 34I*54B as 34-1. As I understand the manager's correction earlier, that should be an I instead of a 1, so that needs to be corrected.
Okay,
So we would need the,
any motion would include that
well,
correction?
we would need to make sure that the applicant is willing to make that change because this is their voluntary proffer statement. I don't think it'll be a problem, but you need to confirm that.
That's why I come forward.
Certainly willing to make that change. Thank you for catching that.
So does the motion need to be with that correction?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, Councilmember Williams.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move to approve this project. I've met with the developer, different civic league meetings, and it's a very good project for our area, that area. Really in supportive of it, and I'd like to make the motion with the correction,
Okay, thank
as
you.
noted.
Do we have a motion for approval from Councilmember Williams with the correction? Vice Mayor Ward?
Yes, for our second, I would like to thank the residents for coming up and sharing with us some of the situations that the developers have improved or changed. I think that's really important when you see the citizens come up and reward the developers on a good job or a good project. And I'd like to thank the two that came up, and we should get more of that so when they're doing good, we already know instead of doing bad all the time. But I had followed this situation, and I'm glad someone came up and they came and changed that they can have a way out in case of emergency. I thought that was very important. And I give kudos to the developer for changing it and making sure that community had a way out just in case of emergency. And I second Mr. Williams.
Okay, we got a second from Vice Mayor Ward. Is there any further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Our next public hearing is an ordinance to rezone and amend the official zoning map of the City of Suffolk to change the zoning from RLM, Residential Low Medium Density Zoning District, to M2, Heavy Industrial Zoning District for properties located at 3865 and 3829 Nasman Parkway. This is zoning map 19C, parcels R48, R49, R50, and R51. Account numbers 301-345-000, 302-685-040, 302-685-030, and 300-236-000. This is RZN 2024-9. Mr. Manager, will you please provide an overview?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, the ordinances under this item number 13 and the next item 14 are related to the same project. Director of Planning and Community Development, Kevin Wine, will provide the staff report, which will probably cover both items. Kevin?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mayor, Vice Mayor. As the manager stated, this item and the item behind it on your agenda are related. We have a rezoning and a CUP. We see that from time to time. For the sake of efficiency, I'll cover both in this presentation so that we don't cover any redundant information. But the rezoning in this case is seeking to rezone 4 separate parcels currently zoned RLM to M2 conditional. That's our heavy industrial zoning district. This would fill in a gap along Nansman Parkway of residentially zoned property between 2 established industrial districts. These 4 parcels collectively make up just shy of 15 acres, and that is the rezoning side of this. This would allow for an expansion of the laydown yard area associated with the Nansman Precast Concrete business located on Nansman Parkway. The property is located outside of our growth area, just south of the driver area on Nansman Parkway, and is designated rural conservation currently. Here we have those 4 parcels subject to the rezoning request. The parcels just south to it, you can see the M2 and then the smaller parcel in between those. Collectively, this assemblage makes up about 31 acres, and the conditional use permit would cover the entire property. The reason for that, what necessitates the need for this conditional use permit, is the Nansman Precast Concrete operation has operated on the site since the 1970s. That predates any ordinances we've had as it relates to regulatory requirements for development, meaning that the existing operation is what we consider legal non-conforming. It existed prior to regulations. However, regulations regarding their expansion currently exist. And under today's Unified Development Ordinance, in order to establish a storage, manufacturing, processing, outdoor operation such as this, it does require a CUP, a conditional use permit, within the M2 zoning district. So upon any approval of the rezoning of these 3 parcels, it would be appropriate to, in order to facilitate this expansion, have an approved CUP over the entire assemblage. I know this is a little tougher to read, it's a little faded, but this does depict the entire property. You can see the dashed area to the right of your screen. That is the area to be rezoned, and then you have the other parcels, those 3 parcels, excuse me, that make up the entire property. Those 3 parcels today make up what is Nansman Precast Concrete. This is a conditional rezoning, and what makes it a conditional rezoning in this case is a proffer related to dedicating right-of-way, 25 feet of right-of-way, in fact, along this section, this entire 31-acre frontage section of Nansman Parkway. Ultimately, it is the vision of the city that this section would be widened, and a site plan would be required for this expansion of the footprint, the storage yard operation. At that time, we would require what's called frontage improvements, curb, gutter, sidewalk along this stretch. However, in lieu of the developer installing these improvements and us ultimately one day having to take them out for an expanded right-of-way footprint, we have worked with the developer on a solution that would allow for dedication of that needed right-of-way today to make it more beneficial for the city in the long run. So ultimately, that is what the developer is proffering in this situation. Here you can see a little cleaner exhibit showing the existing operation. There's a office and other supporting infrastructure related to the existing operation, quite an expansive operation to date. And they're looking to not expand operational capacity as much as expand their footprint to allow for more efficiency on site to account for some of the growth that they've experienced over their 50-plus years at operating on this site. You can see a vegetated buffer along Nansman Parkway. This would be for the newly rezoned area. And particular attention paid to a residential structure that's been developed, kind of encompassed on all sides by the site, but there would be a 50-foot vegetated buffer in this area in an effort to protect and mitigate against any impacts that that residential structure may see. As far as the conditional use permit, we are recommending these 8 conditions. I'm not going to go through those all, but similar to any other conditional use permit, the exhibit that they all provided with us, they will be held to that. We will review to that at the time of site plan on the expanded storage yard side of this. And we do outline the agreement we've reached on the dedication of the right-of-way in lieu of making those frontage improvements. So as it relates to both of these, the rezoning and the conditional use permit, the Planning Commission at their meeting on November 19th did consider these items, and they moved on both of them to recommend their approval to you all this evening by a vote of 8-0. Additionally, in evaluating these requests against the Unified Development Ordinance and the 2035 Comprehensive Plan, staff believes that the expanded footprint is justified and does align with those documents, and we are recommending its approval as well. That concludes my presentation on this item. I'll be happy to address any concerns or questions at the conclusion of the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, will you please explain the timing system?
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and their address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, a 15-minute period for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address, and it is to speak in favor of this ordinance.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. My name is Jesse Johnson. I'm an attorney here in Suffolk, have been so for almost 50 years now. My office address is 3508 Robbs Drive, Suffolk. And before I make any comments with regard to this process, I do want to commend Kevin Wine, Kevin Hughes, their respective staffs in helping us work through our goals here. Just a little bit of history on Nansman Precast. The property obviously is owned by a limited liability company or individually owned by one of the principals of Nansman Precast. But this company got to this site 54 years ago, and it's a family-run operation. They've been cranking out the concrete products for that long, which is commendable. They've recently expanded their production. It's become a much more technical process now. They can do things more efficiently. There's virtually nothing going out in the air. It's quiet, which is, I think, a very good thing. But in doing this expansion, they found that they needed some additional room to store the products that they were producing. And by the way, this company is somewhat unheralded because they are one of the preeminent producers of this particular type of product for this area, for the United States, and they ship things all around the world now. And they enjoy a very, very good reputation within the industry. For those of you who don't know, they manufacture drainage facilities out of all types of concrete. Some of it is of a structural nature. They have to meet standards with VDOT, federal government, all these other places. And they do a doggone good job, and it's all held closely by the family. Doug McConnell, some of you might know him. He served the city well on the Industrial Development Commission. I think that's what it was called at one time. It may have changed its name. But he's always been involved in the community. His sons have been involved in the community, and they've done a very good job in trying to foster employment, local employment, all other things related to the community. So it's a good, solid business. And the property that they're looking to rezone is directly adjacent to the manufacturing facility. It's kind of sandwiched between an M2 parcel that's owned by Blair Brothers and their existing M2 parcel. So it makes sense to consider the rezoning of this. As to the laydown yard, that's exactly what it is. They store the products that they produce outside. There's no reason to house it. And if you see the diagram, you don't necessarily see any details, but it's going to be maintained much better than it is now because it's been scrub brush, things like that they will clean up and manicure. And they want to keep things looking good out there. So I won't bore you going through the report that you received from the planning office. They recommend approval. We accept the conditions that are set forth in the conditional use permit application and the rezoning application. We have proffered the 25-foot right-of-way up front. It just makes sense. Why go through the process, the site plan process, have to put curb and gutter out there, and as soon as you come along and start improving Nansman Parkway, it's got to be torn up and started all over again. Saves everybody money, saves everybody time. As far as access to this particular site, the access is the same as the access and egress from the manufacturing site. All of this will be internal, no on-street access to the property being rezoned. So we feel like this is something that needs to be done for the company and in fact complements the area. And Mr. Wine did hit on a point that makes a lot of sense in including the existing manufacturing sites in the conditional use permit. The property's been there long enough that it qualifies as, for lack of a better term, grandfathering. But your grandfathering situation doesn't necessarily give you the flexibility because the grandfathering may prevent you from doing certain things that may be necessary and proper to continue the business operation. So we wanted to include that, and it's something that Kevin Wine pointed out. We thought it was a good idea, so that's why it's included in the conditional use permit application. So again, I think the report is good. The report recommends approval by the planning department. The Planning Commission approved both of these applications 8-0, and I might add that Ms. Hicks, who is on the Planning Commission, commented, in fact, she made the motions for approval by the Planning Commission to recommend to you approval. She lives very close to this process, and she says they work hard and they're quiet. So we'd ask that you consider to favorably endorse these two applications. And I certainly stand ready to answer any questions that you have. I have Brandon McConnell here, one of the principals of the company, to answer questions if you need that. We also have our engineer here who is doing the site work for this property. So I'll stand by if you have additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you all.
We have our next speaker to speak in favor of this ordinance. Got a little over 3 minutes left. Do you have anyone else present who'd like to speak in favor of the ordinance? Hearing none, do we have anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this ordinance?
Tom Ryan, 119 Suffolk Meadows Boulevard, Suffolk. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, everyone. I live in the vicinity of this, not next to it, but I don't really, you kind of put people in a very difficult situation. You could either vote for something or against it. I have more concerns with the impact and some of the verbiage in the documents, which is the applicant, which I'm sure this is a great business. I go by it every day. I actually sat in front of it for 15 minutes tonight in traffic waiting to get here to the 4 o'clock meeting, but that's one of my concerns. But the applicant in the description of what they're looking for is storage facility, but just openly granting them an M2 rezoning of this kind of opens it up to anything that they can do in M2, which I have concern with. Maybe it's not today or tomorrow, but at some point, if they're growing as far as as big as they say they are, which I'm sure they are, that at some point they're going to do manufacturing on that property, which is going to increase the traffic in that area. So if you do approve the rezoning, I request that you have it more defined in terms of what they can do with that property, whether it be in the conditional use permit or in the proffer of how they can use it. I also think that, if I'm not mistaken, the nearest intersection for traffic is like rated D or E right now, the Kings Highway, and adding any additional traffic on there is just going to make it worse. And the high school's right down the street from there, and again, that traffic in the afternoon especially and in the morning also is just terrible. So again, I have nothing against the rezoning of this for storage, but the way this is written kind of leaves it wide open to do anything on that property. That's a concern of mine. So I just ask you to consider that. The other concern I have, it says on the notes way in the back, it says the western boundary as set forth earlier in this documentation is the old Atlantic Coast Railway right-of-way, but is now owned by the city of Suffolk with the hopes of developing a trail to connect the bike trail north to the site and driver. We've spent millions and millions of dollars on this bike path to run it across the city, and I'm not sure, according to this, does that impact us at all? Like it mentions it, but it really doesn't say how this rezoning would affect the bike path. And again, I think the city's vision long-term is to have the bike path go across the whole city. So I'd like some clarification and some, I don't know, certainty that it's not going to affect that part of the bike path as we move forward. So that's pretty much it. Again, I'm not against the rezoning, but the way this is written kind of leaves it wide open to do anything on that property. That's what I'm against. So thank you.
Thank you. We have our next speaker to speak in opposition. Is there anyone else present who would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we have a 5-minute rebuttal period. Any of the proponents care to take advantage of a 5-minute rebuttal?
I'll just point out, as far as the traffic situation, the city has done their examination on this. They don't see any problem with the traffic situation. We all know Nansemond Parkway needs to be improved, but that's, Nansemond Precast can't take that on. So if you take a look at the staff report, none of the agencies that reviewed these these documents had any problems or concerns. Fire protection, police protection, traffic, utilities, et cetera. No concerns whatsoever. We simply intend to keep running the business like we've been running it, and hopefully it'll be here for years to come for the McConnell's family. I don't think they're going to do anything that's untoward out there. They want to run a business. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the rebuttal period? Hearing no additional speakers, this public hearing is now closed. Council, questions, comments, or a motion? Councilmember Bennett.
Yes. I would just like to say that I met Mr. McConnell and toured his new facilities and went over the plans and everything that he planned to do there. And he had contact with all the community, had no opposition from that. And I've known Mr. McConnell for a number of years, and he's a very prompt businessman, and he will do exactly what he says he's going to do. So with that, I will make a motion for approval.
Okay, we got a motion for approval from Councilmember Bennett. Councilmember Fawcett.
Mayor, just a couple of comments. I'd like to piggyback off of Councilman Bennett's comments that I have also had the opportunity to know a little bit about the McConnells, but talk to them about their project. And I've probably been by there thousands of times on that roadway. The roadway is busy in itself, but I have never seen anything that comes out of Nassau Precast to be a traffic problem or issue. They run a very clean, great operation. They've made a lot of improvements out there on that property. They will continue to improve on that property. They run a first-class operation that serves statewide with the utmost professional first-class materials. I can say no more than we have a business that you can actually see from the roadway that actually does something, and you hear nothing. You hear nothing from it. So when I say nothing, no noise and no issues I've ever seen out there at all with that business. So I want to second Mr. Bennett's motion for approval.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor for approval. Councilmember Johnson.
And I simply want to comment that I'm appreciative that Nassau Precast is expanding. And we feel blessed to have you in our city, and we look forward to you staying in our city and doing well. So with that, I support the motion.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
I just want to ask one question. I'm not quite sure how we have one resident, one house that's kind of in the middle of all this project. And not clearly, the house was built, and we have a letter, commenting about the project. And I'm in support of it. I think it's great, and I'm all in favor of it. But has the homeowner that's going to be impacted by this been satisfied with the buffering and I'm trusting that the McConnells are working with them to make this not miserable for them. That's just my question.
May I approach?
Please.
I know Doug McConnell and his sons have talked to this gentleman. He'd asked for some screening, and you'll notice on that site plan that you see, we put double rows of trees back behind him. And quite frankly, I think his view is going to be much different than it is today. I think he did complain about seeing the plant, but I will tell you this: I don't know how that lot got to be built on. I really don't. I don't know how it was carved out. I assume it was done maybe prior to Suffolk becoming a city. But when the McConnells found out that the property was being built on, they actually posted signs around their property, basically notice signs saying, the property around you could be industrially used. We're using it as an industry right now next door to you. Someone took down a number of those signs. We don't know who did it. We assume somebody who was interested in selling the house that was being constructed there. I will say that there was, and I did read the letter, and it's pretty interesting because the gentleman talks about his property values. He bought this property in 2019. He paid $240,000 for it. The assessment for the property in 2018 was $222,800. The current 2025 assessment is $377,900. So we don't believe he's, at least if the city records are correct, he's lost any money being a neighbor. We will be good neighbors, and we have offered to shield him. So, but the raw numbers kind of belie what he's saying as far as diminution in value.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval. Is there any other comments or questions? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Our final public hearing is an ordinance to grant a conditional use permit to establish an outdoor operations and storage, manufacturing, processing use on property located at 3737, 3865, and 3829 Nesbitt Parkway. This is zoning map 19C, parcels R48, R49, R50, R51, R53, R*53A, and R62, *56, *54. Account number 300-307-400, 302-078-000, 302-079-000, 301-345-000, 302-685-040, 302-685-030, and 303-236-000. This is CUP 2024-25. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. As noted earlier, this is the companion to the public hearing you just had for the rezoning. This is the conditional use portion for the outdoor storage. Kevin Wine stands by should you have any additional questions at this time.
Okay, before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, will you please explain the timing system?
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and their address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, a 15-minute period for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address, and that is to speak in favor of this ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, my name is Jesse Johnson. My address is 3508 Robbs Drive, Suffolk, Virginia. I was just before you on the public hearing to do the rezoning. I don't think there's anything else I could add to what I've already said. The conditional use permit is on the entirety of the property, because we didn't, and through Kevin Wine's wise counsel, we agreed that we didn't want to have any problems in the future by saying, okay, we got the zoning, but we might need use permits or whatever else. We didn't want to get into a situation where perhaps we would do something that might run afoul of the UDO. So I think it was a wise move for Kevin to recommend that we do it, and we certainly endorse that. And that's why we're asking for approval for the conditional use permit. It does carry the conditions that Mr. Wine has set out for you. We will comply with those conditions. One thing that we do have to do is to do a subdivision plat, basically erasing the property lines so we get all one piece of property. And we will move forward with the dedication of the 25-foot right-of-way as soon as the city basically will submit a site plan, and that will get the gears rolling there. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. We have our next speaker to speak in favor of this ordinance. Do we have anyone else present who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Hearing none, do we have anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this ordinance?
Tom Ryan, 119 Suffolk Meadows Boulevard. Look, I know you think I'm a thorn in your side. I get it, because of other things I talk about. But I'm serious when I say there's no traffic impact analysis that I saw in the packet, okay? And the comment that was made by the city regarding the traffic was based on just storage there. It's an issue. We all know that. That intersection is rated, like I said, D or E. Any additional traffic is going to cause that thing to go to E or F. At least ask the question for the citizens of Suffolk. And please, nobody even addressed the bike path. We're spending millions of dollars on this bike path across the city. Nobody even said, Kevin, does this in any way, shape, or form affect the bike path that we're spending all this money on? I mean, this is taxpayer money. I mean, I think we get it from the state, but it's still taxes from citizens that live in the state of Virginia. And again, I get it. You're going to vote against anything I come up here and talk against. I understand that. But I'm going to continue to still come up here and speak the mind of the citizens of this city. We deserve a right, as well as a responsibility to voice our opinion and when we think something's out of order. And this is out of order. Ask the questions. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
We have our next speaker to speak in opposition to this ordinance. Is there anyone else present who would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we'll move to our 5-minute rebuttal period. Do we have any proponents who would like to take advantage of the 5-minute rebuttal?
Maybe a little bit of a history lesson would help the gentleman understand what we're dealing with here. This particular piece of property was subdivided many years ago. The property ran from Nansemond Parkway to, in fact, over the west side of Bennett's Pasture Road. It ran across the railroad tracks that used to be there. And the railroad served the driver area, and in fact, a lot of the industrial development, commercial development that is now in driver got there because the railroad tracks were there. So, so part of this lot, all these lots were taken up by the right-of-way for Bennett's Pasture Road. The right-of-way was already there for the railroad, but for some reason the lots crossed the railroad. That's kind of odd, but that's what happened. As far as the bike path, that's a 50-foot right-of-way. There's nothing that we're going to do in this property that would adversely affect that right-of-way. I jokingly said to Doug McConnell, he's maintaining the property between the right-of-way to the west and east of Bennett's Pasture Road. And I said, well, maybe it'd be a nice thing to put a stop there for people that use the trail to have a hot dog and have a drink. Maybe that's not a bad idea. So we're not going to impact that bike path. We want it to be there. That's fine. And our operation is not going to inhibit that. The city, as far as the traffic situation, they looked at it, they studied it, and they said we didn't need a traffic study because what we were doing was not going to increase the traffic that's coming and going right now. So please don't try to fix something that's not broken. Thank you.
We have about 3 minutes left during the rebuttal period. Anybody else would like to speak in rebuttal? Hearing none, this public hearing is now closed. Council, questions, comments, or a motion? Councilman Bennett.
I just wanted to ask a question, which I know the answer, but to Kevin, I know the city owns the right-of-way, the railroad right-of-way, and the right-of-way is how many feet width? Do you have any idea what the right-of-way footage is? The distance
For the trail.
for the trail?
For the
Yes.
trail, as noted by Mr. Johnson, it's a 50-foot right-of-way at the rear.
So therefore, it's in the document that we have a 50-foot right-of-way through that, where the railroad bed used to be, and nothing can be done except the city.
That is
without
the
approval.
city's property, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. With that, I make a motion for approval.
Okay, we got a motion for approval for Councilmember Bennett, Councilmember Johnson.
And Robert, I'd like to address the traffic issue. It's not an issue for me. I actually don't agree with Mr. Ryan. Don't think it's going to create much of a problem. But does the city see any problem ahead? Other than we got to fix that road eventually anyway.
Certainly, we have a long-term project in the CIP that you'll see very shortly to address Nansemond Parkway, or to begin to address Nansemond Parkway. But as staff reviewed this, we did not have any concerns raised as to any additional traffic that may be developed by this property. In fact, we essentially saw none because, again, it was mainly a storage yard and allowing them to expand their manufacturing.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
With that, I'll second.
Okay, we got a second from Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Fawcett.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment. There's a lot being said about traffic over there. There's a lot being said about the bike path, and I think we've heard clarified now a couple of times that this in no way, shape, or form will affect the ability for the bike path to be constructed at the time. There's a plan already in play for that. Also, the traffic is a Nansemond Parkway traffic problem. And we all know that one day, somehow, that maybe that road's going to get widened. But until then, the traffic's going to remain pretty much the same. What they're going to do at that yard is not going to cause an expansion of traffic. So, again, I'm in support of the project.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval. Is there any other discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Our next ordinance is an ordinance to grant a conditional use permit to establish a solar energy facilities use on properties located at 1380, 1390, 1398, and 1400 White Marsh Road. This is zoning map 35, parcels 172, 172A, and 172B, and zoning map 45, parcel 49D. Account number 050-924-400, 052-606-000, 053-457-500, and 053-457-600. This is CUP 2024-6 and was continued from the November 20th, 24 City Council meeting. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of council. Again, Director of Planning and Community Development, Kevin Wine, will provide the staff report. Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Once again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, as noted, this is an ordinance. The public hearing was held on this item at your meeting last month. There was much debate as it related to this application, which is a solar facility off of White Marsh Road, as it related to noise that the inverters that are a part of these facilities make. So a change from our end, as we present to you this evening, was an added condition. Condition number 9, as included in staff's report and our recommendation this evening, would condition adherence to the noise study that was submitted in support of the application. Why that is important is when it is contained as a part of the conditional use permit and they are found to be in violation of that exhibit as provided, and we, as the city, conduct a noise study to verify that the noise being generated from the site is not in compliance with that exhibit, you as City Council possess the ability to revoke the conditional use permit in accordance with that condition. That differs from our normal development standards, which would be a result of a notice of violation and a zoning violation, and does not necessarily allow you to, at that point, revoke the conditional use permit. But that is what we have incorporated as part of a recommended condition with this use permit, and that's what's changed from your meeting last month. Just a quick recap. Here's a summary of the proposal, but this is a community scale solar project, so it's smaller in nature. It will only take up 14 acres of fenced area upon its completion. 4 parcels make up the site, totaling 137 acres in their totality. The vast majority of the site is held in a conservation easement, and as a wetlands bank is my understanding. The electric generation from the site would only be 5 megawatts. And similar site that was discussed last month, the Stratford Solar Site, much larger in scale, about 120 acres, and that generates about 20 megawatts of electrical generation. 6 acres of the site at the very front would be preserved. This would allow for a boundary of open area at the south of the property. And these do not generate traffic upon their establishment. However, we are concerned about the truck traffic, particularly in rural areas of the city at the time of construction. And we have conditioned the haul route as provided to us and identified via exhibit, which would come from Carolina Road to Babtown Road. So it would come from the south of the site to the site to the north. So with that being said, we are recommending its approval. We believe the noise exhibit condition strengthens the application and furthers our enforcement capabilities from a city perspective, and we are recommending its approval. And as a reminder, at your meeting, at the Planning Commission's meeting back in October, they did move to recommend the approval of this application by a vote of 4-3. As the public hearing on this item has been held and closed, I can stand by for any questions you may have as it relates to this application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wine. Council, an ordinance has been presented for your consideration. Questions, comments, or a motion? Councilmember Bennett.
And I make a motion for denial.
Okay, we have a motion for denial. Councilmember Johnson.
I'll second the motion.
And we have a second. We have a motion for denial from Councilmember Bennett, with a second from Councilmember Johnson. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none. Mr. Wine, I do have a question, if I could, before we vote. And it has to do, based on issues that we've been having with some of the solar facilities, and I realize that one of the determining factors is the size, whether it's 3 megawatts, 10 megawatts, or whatever, the number of inverters. And what we've run into, the prior situation that we're dealing with now, concerns the noise that's being emitted by the inverters. Our ordinance is based on decibels. And from what I can tell, it's not exactly applicable to the type of sound that is being emitted from the inverters. Something similar to, I guess I could use the analogy of how if a dog can hear one thing and we can't hear it. Whatever this noise is. So I'm not looking to make a motion this evening, but I think it's something that we need to refer back to the Planning Commission so we have something that would address the noise that is being emitted by the inverters and have some protection, be it additional screening or barriers or increased setbacks from residential property. I'm not sure where the inverters are going to be on this property, but if there are no assurances that we've addressed that properly, then I would have an issue supporting it strictly because we have residential property being zoned across the street, and we don't need to we need to kind of learn through experience. So is there anything proffered on the precise location of the inverters? And if so, is it substantial enough where we could be assured that it's not going to have the same negative effect on adjoining residential property?
So based upon some of the enhancements that we've made to our Unified Development Ordinance as it relates to the setbacks from right-of-way, we can say pretty definitively that the inverters for a site like this are located further from the right-of-way line and adjacent property lines due to those increased setbacks and vegetated buffers. The transformer areas and inverters are generally made a part of the exhibit that we do condition as a part of approval, and on this site they are located on the interior of the site, so they're not on the exterior. What we have learned as it relates to the nearby solar facility was the placement of the inverters were in some cases on the perimeter, so there was just no buffering of other equipment like solar panels or vegetation that we currently require as part of our Unified Development Ordinance regulations in place to mitigate some of that sound. So there are steps we can take from evaluating our supplemental use standards by enhancing those, speaking directly to inverter placement. But on this site, relative to the larger site that is nearby, the inverters would be further away from the property line, and my understanding they're smaller as well.
Okay, so I guess the bottom line is, can we be assured that there aren't going to be any negative effects from the inverters to the adjoining residential property as we've experienced in the last one within this application?
I believe those assurances are made with the exhibit, this noise exhibit that we've conditioned.
So the
Yes.
answer would be yes?
That is correct.
Okay. Councilman Rector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe as part of the end of the public hearing on this last month, we asked the city manager to go back and look at the existing project farther to the south on White Marsh Road and evaluate the sound and talk to the folks that own that particular property and see what kind of mitigation efforts could be put in place. I know that when I went out there the other day, there were some hay bales that had been rolled in front of the inverters. They helped, excuse me, they helped a little bit, but as you just said, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe the problem is a decibel problem. I believe it's a frequency problem, amplitude. And even though I was standing in those folks' yard, there was probably, I want to say, a good couple of 100 yards away from the inverter. It was still very, very noticeable. So I'm just wondering where those talks with that owner of that particular solar farm went, and what is there any future action planned for that?
Yes, Councilman Rector, following Friday from that meeting, myself, a couple of staff members, we were out with actually Councilman Bennett in field, and we did go by that site. We did not visit with the Alexanders, but we were at this farmhouse that's adjacent to it, and it was a windy day. We got out of the car, you could hear it over, even though I thought it was somewhat muffled by the wind, it was still noticeable. In my conversation with staff, and I think this may have been where they went back and got with the solar folks who owns the project. The straw bale barrier came out of discussions that we had in the truck as having a utility background with generators and portable pumps next to homes at times. We've used that as a temporary basis. That was installed to double check to see how, not that that would be the permanent basis, because the screening would be necessary for a permanent, or a solid facility would be, or structure would be necessary for something permanent, which I believe the owner is anticipating. The mayor shared with me a recent text from the other homeowners who has the concerns, and we still have to do some more homework on that to get to understand fully, will a structure mitigate more of the harmonic, what I'll call harmonic impacts. Then the decimals were reduced in half from what was found on one side of that barrier versus as you got to the street, based on the information provided to staff. But still, still seems to be an impact that we still have to look. Now, a permanent structure versus, the temporary, to see if we can muffle it temporarily with these straw bales. Obviously, the straw bales is not a permanent solution because it deteriorates with weather. But it was a test run on a temporary basis, what was done there. So we still have work to do. Zoning administrator, the assistant director of community development is working on this and relaying information to me as it becomes available. So that's where we stand on that. I hope that answered your question. That was a little bit long-winded.
You okay? I'll get you turned back on.
Right.
Okay. I didn't turn you off.
Yes, that did answer my question. Thank you for the update, Mr. City Manager. And I have to concur with the mayor. Unless we can absolutely assure that this is not going to impact on that constant noise anybody, either now or with the development in the future, I'm like you, I have a hard time supporting it.
Councilmember Johnson?
And I just want to comment on why I don't like to say I'm against something without commenting why I'm against something. I do not think, because of the RC zoning on the other side of the road, because of some homes being close, I'm not sure this is, and I'll go back to that thing I've always said, I don't think this is what I want our city to look like. Not that it might be okay, but might be doesn't work. My experience with what we've done thus far with solar panels is not good. And I am going to have a hard time as we move forward voting in favor of these. So that's just my theory. That's my supposition.
Council, any other questions or comments? If not, we have a motion on the floor for denial. Remember, Councilmember Bennett made the motion. I believe Councilmember Johnson seconded it. Is that correct? Yes. Council members prepare to vote.
So a yes vote is what
Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved with 7 affirmative votes and 1 abstention from Councilmember Fawcett.
Okay, we'll now move to resolutions. We have a resolution to amend the comprehensive plan for 2035 and adopt. Okay, it's been requested that I clarify the last vote, and the motion was for denial, so the affirmation of that means that the motion was denied. I mean, the motion was approved, but the application was denied. Okay, now we'll get back to resolutions, which is to amend the comprehensive plan for 2035 and adopt Suffolk 2045, the City of Suffolk Comprehensive Plan as the City of Suffolk's Comprehensive Plan. This item was continued from the November 20th, 24 City Council meeting. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, at your work session today, our planning and community development principal planner Keith Kennedy went over some recent revisions or amendments based on the comments from the public hearing and discussions with council. Keith is here again to go back over those amendments for your consideration tonight on this action.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Duman and members of City Council. This will be a brief update on the changes made to the Suffolk 2045 planning documents to address the comments made by City Council members following the November 20th City Council public hearing. This slide identifies the key steps in the adoption process, beginning with the recommendation for approval by city staff and the Planning Commission on August 20th and leading up to tonight's City Council meeting. As noted in earlier presentations, this project is a result of a 2-year-plus planning process that included detailed technical analysis of the issues, as well as an extensive public engagement process. 5 changes have been made to the Suffolk 2045 planning document since the November 20 City Council public hearing. I'll start with the first 2 changes identified on this slide. Both of these changes were made to the future land use and growth areas map, which you will find on pages 41 through 43 of the draft plan. First, the plan shows an expansion of the central growth area boundary. This expansion is located along the 58 corridor and was originally identified as option C in the February 20 draft plan. Secondly, the current draft also shows a change in the recommended future land use along the 460 corridor. This change from suburban to traditional neighborhood represents an increase in residential density from 0.5 to 4 units per acre to 4 to 10 units per acre. This slide actually shows the future land use map and growth area boundary, and it identifies the previous changes that I discussed in the last slide. This map is found on page 41 of the draft plan. And again, you can see the extension of the growth area boundary to the west in the 58 corridor and the change in the land use designation for the property in the 460 corridor from suburban to traditional neighborhood. This slide just shows you a more detailed picture of that map, and this is in the document as well. A close-up view of the central growth area map showing the future land use change along the 460 corridor and the growth area expansion along the 58 corridor. The next change in the document pertains to the definitions of several future land use types. The mixed-use core, commercial, office, institutional, multifamily, neighborhood, and the traditional neighborhood land uses have been revised to add mixed-use development, MUD, and planned unit development, PD, as appropriate zoning districts. So again, every land use type has zoning districts that are attached to it. These were expanded in these cases. Next, we have added residential as a secondary use to the employment center land use type. And we have also added MUD and PD as appropriate zoning districts to the employment center land use type. These changes to the employment center land use would apply to both existing and future development, including the Route 58 and 460 expansion. As you all know, a number of the areas that have that designation are currently built out. Lastly, we have added land use objective L.2.5 to support the above noted policy changes. These changes would allow for more residential development options and provide more opportunities for mixed-use development. So hence, providing more flexibility in the updated future land use plan. These changes can be found in the summary table on pages 44 and 45, the detailed land use descriptions on pages 46 through 63, and the land use objectives found on page 65. Changes 4 and 5 to the Suffolk 2045 documents are identified on this slide. A more detailed description of existing land use and development in the Suffolk Peninsula portion of the northern growth area boundary has been provided, and this was done to acknowledge the single-family character of this area, the existing type of development that you find in this portion of the city, and that language can be found on page 9 and page 24. Not a policy direction change, but just a more detailed explanation of what you find there today. We've also provided an update of some of the transportation data found in Chapter 4 of the plan, as well as the supporting transportation data on existing conditions that you find in the appendix. This data updated things like traffic volume, traffic congestion, and traffic safety, and those page numbers are identified there. Again, given the time that we incurred in updating the plan, it was clear that some data was out of date. So we've gone back in and updated that data, most of it from 2022 timeframe to now being current in 2024, and even in some cases even 2025. Finally, an additional change has been added here, recommended by City Council after the publication of the latest draft and appendix on December 6th. This change identified a reduction in the northern growth area boundary that would exclude the Village Center zoning district. That's the VC area that you see on this map. This district portion of the Hobson community that is currently included within the growth area boundary. If you all will remember, Hobson is village is each actually in two separate parts, both zoned VC, and one of those is included in the current growth area boundary. So this would remove that area from the northern growth area boundary, and we've identified that on this map. We're calling this Exhibit A. Again, that's the area. It's in kind of a bluish purple color at the lower left of this slide. This is a change that we've brought forward since the December 6th draft, so City Council will need to reference this change in your motion this evening. Mayor Doom, that concludes my presentation for this evening. Happy to stand by for any questions that City Council may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Council, a resolution has been presented for your consideration. Questions, comments, or a motion? Councilmember Johnson.
I coerced the mayor. You can sit down. I've asked you enough, Keith. Thank you, though. I coerced the mayor to let me speak first because I just, like everybody on this dais and everybody in that audience, we were all very much a part of this plan. You can excuse me, but I'm going to read part of what I'm going to say. First off, I'd like to thank the public that participated, staff, the 2045 Steering Committee, and everyone sitting up here, city manager, all of his staff. They have put together an amazing document. Going through this document, there's been times that I said, under no way can this work. This is not what we want. And I've criticized it. But I've changed my mind. I'm not going to criticize it anymore. It's not perfect, but it is a plan. Never in the history of our city has our people been so involved, engaged, and despite what many think, listened to. Our staff has asked us questions. We've gone back and forth. Every time we've brought something forward, we've gone back and forth, and they've attempted to correct things that we saw as problems. They've done a really amazing job. Have we always been pleased? But in the end result, I think, is a plan that we can work with. Recently, we went back to them and we talked about the growth areas. Too much growth area on 460, not enough growth area on Holland Road. And we went back when we first started this thing, we said, the growth areas really should be along the corridors of our city. That include 58. I didn't particularly want it there at first, but now I realize that in order for us to grow as a city, which we are going to grow, we've got to have some growth on all the corridors. If we want the state to come in here and improve our roads, and we're going to go after the money to do it, if they don't see any growth, we're not going to get the money. And I'm telling you right now, on 58, we've got to have growth in order to fix it. It's got to be fixed. So you see, when you sit on this job up here, we change what we think because we see what's going to work and what's not going to work. I was 100% opposed to the 460 project. Do I still think it was a good idea? Probably not in my head, but we approved it. So what do we do as a council? And what do we do as a city? Now it's time to embrace it and make it our own and make it work for the people that live in this city. what else can we do? So that is my angle on this thing. We have got to embrace what we've got. We've got to move forward. Now I'm off sync here. Hold on. I'm at the 460 project. I'm hopeful that when we do the new transportation plan on 460, that it works for our citizens. But I want this council to recognize that it has to work for our citizens. We've got to look after Lake Prince Road, we've got to look after Kings Fork Road, we've got to look after Providence Road, and we've got to keep these areas for our people and for our citizens. And that's why it's so important to pass a plan now. I'm just going to throw this thing in the crap. We need to pass a plan so that we have something to look at, to work from, and to show people where we want to go. The growth can't be stopped. It can be carefully controlled. We can't put our heads in the sand. To deny reasonable growth is not only wrong, but irresponsible. Growth on 58 makes sense with our new 58 in place, particularly on the land that's less than ideal for farming. And that section of land is less than ideal for farming. And it's gotten to the point now I'm beginning to think we've got so much wetlands over there, what is it good for? And it probably is good for some kind of development. The road structure must be in place to support it, however. And in order to do that, we've got to show that we're trying to do something with that road. So that's why I support that. Same for the growth on 460. Reasonable mixed growth on that road is necessary. The farmers that live on that road have a right to do something with their land when they can. Can we deny people their property rights? I don't think so. There's a lot of conversation about moving the homes from 3 to 4 to 10 on the north side of 460. Everybody said it's too much growth. But the problem is, you're not going to get the developers to come in here. You're not going to let the landowners aren't going to be able to sell the property if we don't allow them a way to do it so that they can be successful. But that doesn't mean we can't require the developers to help us with our infrastructure, or actually demand that they help with the infrastructure or do the infrastructure if that's what it takes for us to improve those areas. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but for 3 months now I've been working on this, trying to figure out exactly what is in the best interest of our city. And believe it or not, that's what we're sitting up here for the best interests of our city, despite the fact that a lot of you guys don't like it. I don't particularly like it. But this is the right thing to do at this time. We need the opportunity to put this plan to the good and the bad in place and take charge of our own growth, particularly 460. It's going to be a tough road, but we need everyone's support, and we can't do this without the citizens of this city. And we all have to be talking to one another. And we don't need to be ugly to one another. We need to be talking to one another, understanding that we all have a different mission to play here. Wait a minute. I, for one, appreciate everyone's input. If at times, particularly in the last 10 days, I've seemed like I wasn't happy with what was going on around me, it's because I don't think you truly understand. You understand what's going to happen when all this takes place, but we've got to make a choice here. We've got to make a decision, and we've got to move forward. We represent all of the citizens of this city. We represent the farmers, who, by chance, we now have a farm committee that we've never had before. Granted, it may not be doing what we want it to do, but it will if we make it do that. We also have a new ag director that's coming in January. I have great hopes in the fact that we can take our ag community and go to new heights and come up with new things so that we can make it better. Everybody knows where ag is, but we can make it better and we can improve upon it when we are an ag city. And that's what this plan tells. If nothing else, it tells it. And it tells it in such a way that I'm pleased. When you read this plan, it sounds good. Now, is it 100%? No. But I think it sounds good. I think that the districts where they want to put some new housing, I think it's possible that we're going to need some of that housing for some of the not warehouses, I hope, but some of the business that comes in here and some of the industry. And we've got warehouses and we'll get more, but we need to promote for more industry. But we represent all of the citizens, the farmers, the landholders, the warehouse people, the industry, downtown, North End. See, I put them in a different category, guys. That's not fair, is it? But we have a tremendous North End, and we need to be looking after them. The retirees, the military, who move here because they like what we are, they like our rural nature, and I don't want to see us lose that. And I don't think this plan will make us lose that. I think this plan will give us a direction. The wannabe farmers, I got a lot of those out in my area. Those in favor of growth, those opposed to growth. We can have it both ways, guys. We're going to have to if we want this thing to be successful. I hope by passing this plan, we look forward to a new era in Suffolk, a time of respect, a time of honesty, a time of liking each other. I honestly think this plan can do that. We're going to be counting on staff, we're going to be counting on the people, we're going to be counting on ourselves to make it work that way. And now I have to throw this in because my son wrote a couple things and he said, Dad, this is good. This is good and this is how we feel. This is not me. It's the people in my borough. It's my children. And I don't want to see farming go away either. For all of you farmers, I want it. And maybe there's other ways to do it. But right now, this is what we got. And if we don't get in there and make it work, you might curse me in a few years. I kind of cursed people about 58, trust me. But finally, for 58, it's coming to fruition. But now it needs to continue. We've got to get the traffic flowing in our city again. And I'm hoping that's what we're going to impress upon our city, that we've got to get traffic flowing, we've got to build schools, and we've got to open up new areas. Maybe industry can help us. That's what we have to think, and that's what we have to work on. This is from my son. This plan allows for oversight of the inevitable growth that's coming so quickly. It's malleable enough for the citizens in the city to make decisions together as we grow and expand, as cities do. Most importantly, it allows for the land to be a part of a discussion and not a debate. Plans are discussions that are had over time and revisited when necessary. This plan is written in water, not in stone. One more thing, and I'm gonna quit. For those of you that think we've got secrets up here, or that we're hiding things from you, you know, they know, we don't. I'm an open book. As a matter of fact, I tell everybody up here, don't tell me a secret, because that's going to be told. I don't keep secrets. What we do is open to you. All you have to do is ask in a way that is gentle, civil, and nice. And you come see me anytime, and I'm happy to tell you exactly what we're doing. We do not have secrets. And anybody would tell you that's not what we're about. We're about making this city a better place. And I have caught so much slack over making this decision, but I don't care. Give me the slack, because I know the right decision tonight is to pass this, to move forward, and to start working through the problems with it. And there will be problems with it. But don't think that we lie to you. Don't think that we tell you things just to make you leave us alone. You know, and what we say is going to change every once in a while. And I'm not pulling you out, Mr. Ryan, but when you called me out the other night, I was kind of a little taken aback because I don't want housing around factories. I don't want housing around warehouses. But sometimes that will change. And that's what we have to look at every day. I know what I'm about, but I also know that if you're not open to what's coming forward, sorry. I just don't know how it's going to happen. So I'm not going to say any more, but I wanted to get this off my chest. It's been a hard time, and I think we are doing a good job. We are elected officials. You have more elections coming up, and if you have ideas and you want to do it, go for it. It's a great thing. We live in a democracy. It's wonderful. But meanwhile, you're going to have to count on us to do the very best we can, and then just beat us up whenever you need to make us understand that this is not what you want. But sometimes we don't have a choice. And sometimes we know things that you don't. And sometimes it's just like with the roads. If we don't get these roads fixed in this city, we're doomed. And we got to find a way to do it. So I personally think this plan is a start. So that's why I lend my support to it 100%. Thank you.
Council, any other questions, comments, motion? Councilman Rector?
First off, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councilman Johnson, for your comments. You said a lot of things that, are very much on my mind and in my heart. I'm going to take a little stab at you, though, and as usual, your children are probably a little smarter than you are. And one of the things that was in the part that your son wrote is that the plan is malleable. I think that's a critical word for what we've got going on here. If we don't like something that's in this plan next meeting, we can change it. If we don't like something that's in this plan 6 months from now, we can change it. And I want to echo what you said. This has been, I've only been on the council for 2 years, and this is clearly far and away the most difficult decision that I've had to make. I've spent countless hours and whatnot listening to people, talking to people and whatnot, and I agree with you. I think at some point this plan needs to move forward, and I think this point is now. Therefore, I want to make a motion to approve the 2045. I move for approval of the resolution adopting the 2045 comprehensive plan with the amended northern growth area as shown in Exhibit A.
Okay, we got a motion for approval from Councilman Rector with the amendment. Councilman Fawcett.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I'd like to just take a moment, if I could, to thank many people that was involved in this, from the Suffolk City Administration to the Steering Committee to the Planning Department, the city leadership, and the Planning Commission. There was a lot of people involved in this over a long period of time. I think that I want to thank you, Mr. Johnson, for saying what you said, because there's a lot of things that you had mentioned that was spot on. It was spot on. It was good. It was very good. And, you know, a lot of work was put into this, and people won't agree that this is a good document. You know, we got trash emails today telling us that we're doing everything underhanded, and it just kind of upsets you, because I don't know anybody up here that does anything underhanded. Nobody. I think every person that sits on this council, and I've sat with them for most of the time that they've been on here, with the exception of Mr. Bennett's probably the longest of all. And I think that we've all had communication and talks about different portions of this. I think, you know, Mr. Johnson probably pointed out, it's not a perfect document, but it's a document, it's a working document, it's a plan. It's a plan. There's nothing about a plan that can't be amended, changed, or whatever as you go forward. So, you know, I echo some of their comments, and I think they're just absolutely on. And I'm going to go ahead and motion for a second on this for approval.
Okay, we got a motion for approval from Councilmember Rector as amended, and a second from Councilmember Fawcett. Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. First of all, thank you to Councilmember Johnson for his very, very thoughtful remarks. It has been, I'm not going to repeat, you know, we've all been through the ringer on this. Us up here, the staff, the citizens, we've all been through the ringer on this. And it's been a really interesting process. We've made a lot of changes along the way. Staff has been very ready and willing to make adjustments where we've asked for adjustments, and I appreciate that. From my perspective, I'm going to continue to be disappointed in the amount of the growth area. I was hoping that we would reduce that some, but I also realize that we have to move forward, and we have to have a way to figure out what we're going to do, and controlling the growth and managing the growth as best as we can. So again, that's a concession I'm willing to make at this point. There's been a whole lot of discussion about the physical impact analysis, and we have had reassurances from staff that that is something that is going to be addressed in the planning process. And because we don't know the nature of what exactly the growth is going to be, it's very hard to say how much something's going to cost if you don't even know what it is. But again, we've had reassurances that the physical impact analysis will, that process will change as part of planning applications, and we look forward to hearing more about that. I think one of the malleable comment and the fact that this is something that can be amended and changed, we do not want to approve this comprehensive plan and then put it on a shelf and wait another 5 years. So I want to be very intentional and very persistent on looking into the parts of it that we don't think are perfect. It's not a perfect document, but it's a good document, and we can work with that. So I want us to be very intentional and persistent in continuing to look at amendments and adjustments where we didn't get it quite right. And I'm gonna pledge to do that with the help of my fellow council members. One last point, I know that the comprehensive plan drives a lot of decisions that are made within the city, but the comprehensive plan does not equal automatic rezoning. That doesn't happen. Folks are still going to have to go through the process of applying and rezoning property. It's not an automatic thing. So just want to kind of clarify that because I keep hearing that too. So my support is not full-throated and heartfelt, but no, that's not true. I agree with my fellow council members. I feel like we need to approve a plan. I feel like we need to continue to work with this plan, and I feel like it's time for staff and for us and for the public to move on to the next phase of this, which will be continuing to improve it as we go along. So I just wanted to offer those comments. Thanks.
Councilmember Bennett.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I just have a couple of comments that I would like to make concerning it as well. I think staff and everyone has put a lot of time into this document and trying to improve it and try to listen and do what some of the comments that were made from the public to the only thing that I have some concern with at this point is that some changes were made or asked to be made in the last meeting, and staff have worked on some of those things. I don't know for sure whether or not our constituents have had the opportunity to really digest those concerns that were presented, and then we were asked to have it delayed until the first meeting in January, second meeting in January, the 10th, by the 10th, I think it is, of January. Is that right, Mr. Attorney? I think it was the second, the 10th. It was a date anyway of January. That's right. Don't worry about it. That's good. That we could do, and I think that would have gave, by not having another public hearing, that would have gave the public an opportunity to digest more into the changes that were being implemented into the plan. Because when you make changes after you have a public hearing, then you don't give the public the time to really come back and make comments on what the changes has been made. So that's where I have a little concern with when we add changes after the public hearing, and you've taken the opportunity from the public to respond to that. I just have some concern with that. So that's my comment.
Council, any other questions or comments? If not, I'll lend a few comments, and I'll be brief because I'm going to try to stay to script. That'll keep me on track, right? I'll begin with, and I know it's been said before, it's been said by several on this dais that it's been one of the most extensive, time-consuming, and costly endeavors I've witnessed in my 14 years serving on council. It is absolutely indisputable that the civic engagement undertaken during this process was indeed unprecedented. Also, as I've stated before, I believe the process implemented was appropriate and thoughtful, but I have not personally been pleased with the amount of time that it has taken to get to this point, nor I have been satisfied with some of the conclusions along the way. At this point, though, after all the interaction, revised and amended versions, and I think that we're looking at about the fifth iteration of the comp plan that we have before us this evening for consideration, sets forth an acceptable long-range vision for future land use and community character, transportation and mobility, economic development, housing. It protects natural resources as well as our historical and cultural heritage. I want to take a moment to also thank the manager, Mr. Kennedy, the staff, the consultants, and most importantly, our citizens for their efforts and input over what has been close to 3 years. I'm especially appreciative of the changes that were made since our last meeting when I suggested that all council members make specific recommendations that, if implemented, would lead to a consensus. To my recollection, members of this council did exactly that in open session at our last meeting. In regards to the public hearing, yes, the public hearing was closed. If someone had an objection to that, they could have made a substitute motion to continue to table this and also keep the public hearing open. That was never made. The public knew that the public hearing was closed. This is not a unique case. This has been done on multiple occasions before. It appears that those changes that were implemented at the suggestion of the council members would lead to a consensus, and it appears that based on the comments, we have indeed accomplished that goal. Personally, my most significant concerns were related to recommended uses and guidelines within the employment centers. Additional narrative related to the Northern Suffolk growth area as suggested by the Suffolk Peninsula Community Partnership, and realigning boundaries and removal of the village of Hobson from the growth area. Those were my concerns, and they were addressed not only sufficiently, but to an extent that I don't think they could be addressed anymore, especially in regards to the employment centers. The fact that the employment centers, which do encompass a considerable amount of our growth area, were relegated to M1, M2, and CP, which lends itself to very limited use, of which warehousing and technology is part of them. So with the changes that were made, which now we also have mixed-use developments, planned developments, and which also allow for a residential component. So now these growth areas are not limited to a lot of the uses that our citizens find objectionable. Keeping in mind that, once again, as everybody mentioned, the comprehensive plan is a plan. It's a guideline. But it's also something that corporations and individuals who are looking to invest in our city review to see what we are looking for. So that opens up the possibilities. The increase in density is about providing affordable housing. It is what it is. You can only have affordable housing with certain densities. The lower the density, the higher the cost of the houses has to be. This is not just a Suffolk problem. This is a regional problem. It's a Hampton Roads problem. It's a regional problem. It's a state problem. And it's a problem across our entire country. When you look and see what folks have to pay for rent nowadays because they can't afford to buy a house, and a one-bedroom, two-bedroom is $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. It's out of reach of a lot of folks because there's not enough affordable housing. The reason that there's not a lot of affordable housing is because the supply is so low. It's economics 101, supply and demand. So everything has to be balanced. We don't need rushed growth, but we're going to need some growth. Can we try to get ahead of infrastructure projects? Yes, we can, to the extent that it's feasible, to the extent that it's possible. Anybody can wish for roads to be completed before they're needed. But unfortunately, in the world we live in, it's just not a reality. So it's always constantly balancing growth with maintaining quality of life at the same time. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of it. And I think this plan is going, as Councilman Johnson alluded to, will give us some direction so we can move that way. The comprehensive plan, whether it adheres to when an application comes to us, and it states whether it adheres to the comprehensive plan, is only one of 7 or 8 issues that have to be taken into consideration. Complying with the comprehensive plan does not mean that's going to happen. And if it doesn't comply with the comprehensive plan, it doesn't mean it couldn't possibly happen. So it's a consideration that we have to take into consideration, along with infrastructure, schools, environmental, and all the other issues that are within the application. So it behooves us to look at those applications as we move forward. We have to be committed and focused on making future decisions that continue to consider citizen input and all present and future ramifications as it relates to adequate public facilities, the UDO environment, as well as the comprehensive plan. Moving forward, and Councilmember Butler Barlow alluded to this, we have to address certain things, which include the village plans, which we have not done yet, the individual village plans. We need to, in my opinion, improve the application process as it relates to fiscal impact. So the applicant has to complete the fiscal impact statement in a format with the information that we request along with the supporting data, so we in turn would have more to rely on in regards to the fiscal impact. And we also need to continue and update our master transportation plan. I mean, we've got a good start on it, but things are always changing. And just to give you an idea how much it changes, when you look at the UDO, when you look at the comp plan, under transportation projects, 460 wasn't even mentioned. Now, how is that even possible? The reason that's possible is because this started 3 years ago, and the 460 project and ensuing funding that became available for 460 was 6 months after this was even started. So that's a perfect example as to how this has to be a fluid, living document. That 460 was not even mentioned in the onset, other than something that was planned. But it wasn't funded and it wasn't anything specific. So I too lend myself to the support of this comprehensive plan. I personally appreciate all the input, not only from our citizens, sometimes I didn't appreciate that much, but I do appreciate your input, but I really appreciate how council over the months has taken the time, and a lot of you folks out there don't have a clue how much time the individuals on this dais spend of their personal time that takes away from their work, takes away from their personal life, in an attempt to make the right decision on behalf of the citizens. And recently, with some of the comments and vitriol that's been going back and forth, I find it somewhat embarrassing for some of our citizens. So with that being said, we got a motion on the floor for approval. Been so long ago, I can't remember. I believe from Councilman Reckons, seconded by Councilman Fawcett. Is there any further discussion? If not, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved. Councilmember Bennett has voted in opposition, and Councilmember Johnson has abstained, and the remaining council members have voted for approval.
Okay, we'll now move to staff reports. We have no staff reports this evening. We do have a motion to schedule a city council work session for January 15th, 2025 at 4 p.m. unless canceled by the mayor and city manager, and the motion would be in order. Council, what's your pleasure? Councilman Fawcett? Got a motion for approval from Councilman Fawcett. Councilmember Johnson?
Second.
Second for Councilmember Johnson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Councilmembers prepared to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
Councilman Burrell, thank you. The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
We now move to non-agenda speakers. Madam Clerk, do we have any non-agenda speakers? If so, will you please explain the guidelines?
We do have non-agenda speakers this evening. Each person participating under the item of business entitled non-agenda speakers shall limit their remarks to the services, policies, and affairs of city government and shall be permitted 5 minutes for the purpose of presenting his or her matter. Speakers appearing before city council will not be permitted to participate in the following activities: to campaign for public office, engage in personal attacks, promote private business ventures, or use profanity. Speakers who violate these rules will be declared out of order by the presiding officer and will immediately yield the floor and be seated. Arthur Elliott, 1015 Nansman Parkway, Unit 210B, representing self regarding city affairs. Is Mr. Elliott present? Our next speaker is Donald Goldberg, 408 West Riverview Drive, representing self regarding the comprehensive plan and council comments.
Don Goldberg, 408 West Riverview Drive, Suffolk. Had a lot to say, but a lot was said tonight up on the dais, which I happen to like very much, and what was said. The only concern that I had, that I heard on the comprehensive plan, was on 58, I felt like that should have been expanded up to Buckhorn or even up to Holland to get Holland some help in the growth. But it wasn't, and I felt like where it was going, it really only satisfies maybe one group or one person as opposed to other farmers that are up there that might have that. But again, it is a plan, something you can adjust and change during the period of time if someone wants to come up to you. So I want to thank y'all for your effort. I understand, because when I was a former council member, I helped start on this. And now as a citizen, I see it finally come to fruition. And I want to thank y'all all for your effort and what you did, and also the city employees, city manager, and your team of what y'all did. And finally, I want to just make one comment. I want to congratulate Councilman Fawcett for your years. You did a great job. I enjoyed working with you, and I think that your work and what you've done will show up over the many years of the things that you did good for the city. Thank you all very much.
Our next speaker is Shane Alexander, 1800 White Marsh Road, representing self regarding ongoing noise coming from Stratford Solar Field.
Mayor, City Council members, thank you. Wasn't aware that the public remarks for the other one were already shut down, so I did have some comments here. I'll leave in the box, along with my personal cell phone on my business card, if any questions. And it just basically summarizes what I thought about solar facilities on farming and agricultural land, which I am proud of the council here for standing up, not only for the agricultural community, but to know that all this was brought forward in an effort for just 12 to 15 residents of homes that are kind of really affected, and to know that our 15 residents carry in your minds just as much power as a large city community really means a lot to me. I extend my thanks on that. Councilman Rector, I enjoyed our visit the other day. Thank you for coming out. Glad for you to take your time just to walk over and actually physically see or listen to what we were saying. All the things that were said in the former comments, sounds like that the city managers are actually, on par with what needs to be done. The inverters, although one side was sounded or shielded, they obviously have to be shielded on all sides. And it's just not that one. There's 3 inverters along that White Marsh Road corridor that are within, 60, 90 feet of housing complexes. Just because one is quieted or shut down doesn't mean that the others aren't emitting that same noise. And I would bring this proposal to you guys to ask Penngate is, there's got to be somewhere in a facility that large is not going to be the means to not shut down a piece of equipment, either for maintenance or emergency shutdowns. I don't understand why they can't have the ability to divert all that inverter power to the ones further back into the back of the field. Sometimes one runs, sometimes one doesn't, sometimes they're running in unison. So to me, there should be the ability to divert that necessity to those rearward inverters near the forest line and keep those ones up front shut down and for emergency use only. I don't think that all 5 inverters are needed to, convert the power from that facility. But then again, I can't speak to exactly how that works. Just my suggestion. We did briefly go by the Pleasant Hill Solar Project, was just to the west of that one today. Sat outside the gate, heard nothing. I don't know if it's just a coincidence or if they're using different inverter technology, but there was no sound emitting from that facility. It may just be today as well. So I'll be making follow-up visits to that facility as well, just to see if it was just a fluke. But if it is truly not emitting those same frequency levels, that would be, we need to figure out what they're doing different and kind of propose that in the future. The status of the investigation, I guess, is ongoing, but kind of been disappointed at the level of information that's actually coming out or being presented to the public. It's kind of been kind of hush-hush. So in that regard, I think a lot of the information did come out here at the meeting tonight, which I'm appreciative of. A couple more comments probably made, but I'm seeing we're running out of time. Just wanted to make a quick kind of blurb on the comprehensive plan as well. I know a lot of statements up here were made that it's not a perfect plan. I would just encourage everybody to know that there is a perfect plan, and that's why we celebrate Christmas. God bless you all.
Our next speaker is Frank Placencia, 442 Williams Road, representing self regarding the city budget.
Good evening, council, staff. Consider the following municipalities: Norfolk, Suffolk, Virginia Beach, and Williamsburg. Which city do you think has the most money to spend on each individual citizen had in 2024? Would you be surprised if I told you it was Suffolk? Williamsburg had $5,877 per resident. Virginia Beach had $6,671 per resident. Norfolk had $8,412 per resident. And Suffolk had $8,733 per resident. As a frame of reference, the U.S. government had revenue in 2022 of $15,098 per resident. So why is this important? It is important because we are continually being told by members of this council that we need to increase new business development in order to continue to fund our city. According to the numbers I just quoted, the residents of Suffolk are doing just fine without new big businesses. Instead of so much emphasis being placed on business growth, Suffolk city government should consider focusing on the following: build smarter roads to ease traffic concerns, help build more single-family housing, and provide more funding for public education. It is a myth that big businesses pay the bills for government in the city of Suffolk. They never have, and they never will. We have plenty of money in our city. Let's use it wisely. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Denise Smurden, 4041 Kinston Parkway, representing self regarding respecting civic engagement.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. Thank you, Mr. Bennett, for pointing out what is really bothering the citizens. The fact that we did not have a public hearing for such substantial changes made to the comprehensive plan after all of what we have already been through seems disrespectful. The reason why there was no motion made, I think, to continue the public hearing was because that vote, we can all go back and see it on tape, was very rushed. There was a substitute motion made, and then the discussion did not occur until after the vote was taken. So I don't think anybody even thought about keeping the public hearing open. What you hear from the people is not anger, it's frustration. For every one of us that you've gotten used to seeing here in front of you speaking, and yes, the usual cast of characters shows up at these meetings. But for every one of us that does that, I would be willing to bet there's at least 5 or 10 other people that we communicate with, that we touch, that we're representing as well. You represent us. And how are you going to represent us unless you hear from us and truly listen to us? It was so frustrating for so many of us to sit through all of the comp plan briefings we heard and heard about more than 7,000 discrete comments were collected, which is wonderful. The engagement effort was commendable. And I, as a former public servant myself, Mr. Mayor, we do appreciate that those of you who run and serve do so. We need you. We're glad that you do that. We appreciate that. But I think there needs to be some more appreciation of what we're doing as well. We don't just wait until City Council night and come here to complain. We're doing a lot of our own research. There's a deep knowledge here in the community, and it's not that we're all anti-growth. I think most of us, yes, there are some of us that would just like to see us stay the way we are. But I would say the majority of us understand that you can't stay in one place and not grow. And so what we're really looking for is responsible growth. I think that one of the reasons why you saw so much engagement during the comp plan discussion was because of Port 460. People really weren't heard then. And it was interesting to me tonight because I heard more discussion about the possible noise of solar inverters at a single solar location than I ever did about the noise, air, and water pollution that could occur from Port 460. I don't think we ever even discussed it. So these are the kinds of, frustrations when we don't really feel like we're being listened to. Listening is not just hearing, and I think that we've seen this happen before, where substantial changes are made after a public hearing is closed, and then we have no recourse. So if people were happy with the plan, if they felt that they were being given explanations, I don't think we would have gone through all this. There's lots of things we can do. We hear promises of things that are going to be followed up on, and then they're not. The warehouse ordinance, for instance, more than a year ago, you told us you knew that this needed changes and this needed improvement. We haven't seen anything yet. So please, listen to us and give us opportunities to not shut down our voices because you want to get the vote you want to get. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Kelly Hangler, 9345 Eclipse Drive, representing the Crittenden Eclipse Hobson Heritage Civic League regarding procedural rules.
Good evening and happy holidays to everyone. Woosah. Okay. Tomorrow morning, we are filing a complaint with the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia as well as the State FOIA Office. This city spent 2 years and 7 months and $1 million of our money without reading the Virginia Code. Virginia Code 15.2-2223, a 3-year-old could follow. It's the law. It's the oath of office of every person up here. Were you ever given a copy of it? Oh, dear counsel, honorable counsel, I don't think you were. It happens every 5 years. There are other codes, and one of the codes that was missing, or subsections in that, was the mandatory, Section B, that you have to have a chapter on transportation. Can I allude you to something here for a second? Suffolk in 2015 signed up for and became voluntarily a urban development area under VTrans. We're not getting left behind on roads, people. There's a reason 460 wasn't there. It is a low freight priority. Massive money is going to Northern Virginia and on 58, sir, because it actually has a commodity of use for the people of Virginia. This is not a game. You have 14 days now. It was clarified on July 1st, okay, of this year by our General Assembly, that you have to give those 14 days in public notice. That is for items on the agenda, okay, variances, rezoning, not for public policy. In 15.2-223, okay, and other ordinances, it literally states by the state that you have to give 30-day public notice of a final draft document for our open public government in Virginia. Praise God, be glory to America. Where is our public notice? Where is our final draft? Oh yes, there's a question, sir, about the hot mic drop of substitute motion, when our good council members had already put forward that you moved the transportation chapter that was never reviewed, whereas, resolution, whereas, coming from your planning commission that didn't include a transportation chapter, a mandatory chapter of a city who is voluntarily enrolled in VTrans as an urban development area. I don't care what kind of institutional knowledge, folks, that we have lost, and Merry Christmas to everybody. I am torn up tonight. This is not my person. Over 100,000 hours at the premium of what could be claimed by the IRS of $2.5 million by our community. And you know what our community is treated like? Volunteer hours? Like trash. We get doxxed, punched down at, decorum broken on this dais, not in 2025. I don't think the state has the manpower to come down here to Suffolk and provide oversight, but people need to start living to the oath that they took, which is the Virginia Code. And if you do not know the Virginia Code, and you do not know it required a 30-day notice on the final draft, let me educate you from the cup of knowledge, because it is the law. I didn't write it. We need to read. This is why it took 2 years and 7 months. And what did the council do? God bless your souls. We love you, we do. We the people come to you. We know our Bill of Rights, okay? And we're not trying to be troublesome to you. And we're not trying to be angry. And let me make one more statement in my last minute. We the people will be the one to elevate the economy of this city. We are going after money at the state. We are going after people who are investors in our own city who don't even have the opportunity to see a final draft, so they may be able to step in the way that they have for 400 years and help to invest in our communities. Excuse me? Virginia, I call upon you and I pray on the breast of our state that we can get some relief so people start reading the Virginia Code. God bless America. And good night.
That concludes the speakers, Mayor.
Okay, we're now going to move to new business. Madam Clerk, do we have any additions to tonight's agenda?
The following individuals have been nominated for appointment to the Early Childhood Development Commission, and please note that these positions would be effective January the 1st of 2025. Carol Johnson as the Private School Professional Representative, Farika Yancey as the Social Services Representative, Tammy Rittenhouse as the Head Start Representative, Carol Wilson as the Early Childhood Representative, and Virginia Staler as the At-Large Representative.
Council, motion would be in order. Councilmember Johnson.
Approve.
A motion for approval, Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Butler Barlow. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, kindly record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Do we have any new business that require the action of the City Council that members would like to bring for consideration? Council Member Rector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure as most of y'all are aware, the Downtown Advisory Committee is essentially up and running. We've had a few, or they have had a few meetings, and some stuff is starting to come out of it. And one of the things that it is coming out of it is they'd like to have the refuse collection policies for the downtown area taken a look at. And so what I would like to do is offer a motion to direct the city manager to review and recommend updates to the existing ordinances pertaining to residential refuse collection in the historic district. In particular, this request shall take into consideration A, placement and storage of containers, B, requirements related to loose trash and bulk pickup, and C, enforcement and penalties for noncompliance.
Councilmember Williams.
I second that, Mayor.
Any other discussion of the motion? I have a little bit, Councilmember Rector. I would like to suggest that your motion include not only residential but commercial. We've had some serious issues with commercial trash collection as well, on Washington Street and on Saratoga in particular. So if you find that amenable, to amend your motion to include not only residential but commercial collection of trash in the downtown business district. Okay, I got to turn you on to talk? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any objections to amending the motion. I believe we, after discussions within the committee itself, we recognized, and Kevin, I may need your help here, that the commercial aspect of it is already under review, and some steps are being taken to work on that based on some of the property acquisitions that the city has made over the last year or so. But I'm perfectly happy to include that, and if it's already being taken care of, then obviously the city manager can report back that that's being taken care of.
Okay, Councilman Williams, are you okay with a second to that? Okay, Councilmember Williams concurs with the second. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, do we have any other new business that members would like to bring before council? If not, we'll move on to announcements and comments, and we're going to start with Media and Community Relations Director Jennifer Moore.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City Manager. I'll start the announcements off this evening with a reminder that the City of Suffolk will observe the upcoming Christmas and New Year's holidays, and city offices will be closed starting on Tuesday, December 24th, and will resume normal operations on Thursday, December 26th at 8:30 a.m. As well, offices will observe New Year's Day and will be closed on Wednesday, January 1st, 2025, and will reopen on Thursday, January 2nd at 8:30 a.m. For both holidays, trash and recycling services will operate on a one-day delay, and Suffolk Transit will not operate. Suffolk Public Works reminds residents that the removal of Christmas trees and boxes will not be considered part of the 12 free special collections. There is no requirement to secure trees or collapsed boxes, just place them on the curb on your collection day. While trees placed for collection after January 7th will still be collected, they will be counted as part of the special collection. The Economic Development Department is excited to share that Wawa has officially opened its doors on Holland Road on Route 58. The ribbon cutting was held on December 6th when the Police Department, Suffolk Fire and Rescue, and Sheriff's Department battled it out in a hoagie building contest. Congrats to the Sheriff's Department for their win. Suffolk Public Works and VDOT would like to update citizens on the Southeastern Public Service Authority, or SIPSA, interchange improvement project happening on Route 58 at Bob Fuller Drive. Crews have already started to reopen the outside right lanes in both directions on Route 58 near the SIPSA facility over multiple nights. The shoulders on Route 58 in both directions are scheduled to remain closed along the same corridor until approximately the summer of 2026. Motorists are advised to drive cautiously and stay alert for construction vehicles entering and exiting the work zone. For additional information on the SIPSA Interchange Improvement Project, visit the VDOT website at vdot.virginia.gov. And join Suffolk Parks and Rec as they celebrate the holidays with the Festival of Lights walkthrough this Saturday, December 21st, 5 to 9 p.m. This event begins at the Obacy House, and you can ride a horse-drawn carriage to the Sleepy Hole Park. Once there, guests will be able to walk through the light displays, make s'mores, and hang out in Santa's workshops with elves Holly and Jingle. Attendees can take the carriage back to the Obacy House for an outdoor market, food vendors, and live music. This event is free and open to the public. For more information, visit SuffolkParksandRecs.com. Suffolk Public Library wants to celebrate the new year with your little ones a tad early with a countdown, balloon drop, crafts, snacks, and dancing at the Noon Year's Eve Kids Party. The party starts at 11 a.m. and will ring in the new year at noon. This event will be held at both Morgan Memorial and North Suffolk Library locations. For more information, visit SuffolkPublicLibrary.com. The City of Suffolk Public Safety Committee would like to remind all citizens of the Public Safety Portal. This online platform empowers our residents to share their suggestions on community safety improvement and public safety matters. Users of the portal also have the option to submit anonymously. We do want to remind residents, however, that this portal is not intended for reporting criminal activity, and in the event of an emergency, to please dial 911. For more information on the Public Safety Portal or the committee, visit suffolkva.us. And Suffolk has been buzzing with holiday cheer all month long. In the true spirit of the season, I am thrilled to share a festive recap of the exciting events that brought our city to life this year. Let's dive in and relive the magic. And of course, on your screen are the various ways residents can stay connected to happenings across the city. Thank you and have a merry holiday.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. We'll now move on to announcements from City Council, and we're going to start with Councilmember Butler Barlow. In the holiday spirit. Oh, Dad, gone.
Thank you. I know you have a hard time with that. I want to say, first of all, thank you to all the citizens that came out tonight. I know it's frustrating. I know none of us is 100% happy with the way things have gone, but I think the theme for 2025 will be that we all work together to make this as good a place to live as we can. I want to share a quote with you from Frances Perkins, who is the Secretary of Labor under FDR and the author of the Social Security Act, and who also had her home dedicated as a federal monument this week. And what she said back in the day was, the people are what matter to government, and a government should aim to give all the people under its jurisdiction the best possible life. And I want everyone to know that we do take that seriously. It's very difficult. There's a lot of challenges, but I'm looking forward to working with all the very smart folks that we have here in the city of Suffolk to accomplish great things in 2025. I want to say thank you to Councilmember Fawcett for his many years of service. It's been good working with you. Councilmember Fawcett was the first member of council that reached out to me when I was appointed, and came out to my farm and talked to me, and I will always appreciate that. So thank you, and hope retirement is a good thing. It sounds, no, I want to. You don't have to. I'm working on it. Anyhow, thank you, Roger. It's the holiday season. It's a wonderful time of year. I love the comment about the perfect plan. It's also a very emotional time of year, and I'm going to say I know way too many people who are struggling this holiday season with illness, with tremendous losses, and hard times in general. And so I don't get emotional myself. I'm going to read you a lovely quote that popped up today, I think specifically for me. And this is actually a Virginia Woolf quote. And I think it's perfect for the holidays and perfect for the time that we're spending with all of our families and loved ones. Whatever happens, stay alive. Don't die before you're dead. Don't lose yourself. Don't lose hope. Don't lose direction. Stay alive with yourself, with every cell of your body, with every fiber of your skin. Stay alive. Learn, study, think, read, build, invent, create, speak, write, dream, design. Stay alive. Stay alive inside you. Stay alive also outside. Fill yourself with the colors of the world. Fill yourself with peace. Fill yourself with hope. Stay alive with joy. There is only one thing that you should not waste in life, and that is life itself. And not to end on a downer, but happy holidays to everybody, and see you next year.
Councilmember Bennett.
Thank you. I would just like to start out by saying that thanks to everyone that came out tonight to participate and hear what is taking place in our great city. Please continue to come. I'm glad to see you. I'd like to see the chamber full every council meeting. That means that you are interested in what is taking place and you want to hold us accountable for what we are sitting up here that you elected us to do. So again, I do appreciate all you people coming out and participation. Also, I'd like to say to Councilman Fawcett, it's been a good 12 years. You and I have worked together on the council, and I think we first met really when you was getting ready to run the Come On Council. And we formed a relationship, and I think that grew. And I can truly say that I can appreciate the time that we served together. We might not always agree, but we was always still friends and could smile and talk and go on about our daily lives. So it's been a pleasure to be working with you during those 12 years. And to Ms. Ebony Wright, congratulations to you. Looking forward to serving with you as well, and looking forward to a good working relationship as well with you as I do with the other council members. And with that, it's Christmas time coming up. I mentioned last council meeting about a lot of people will have empty chairs at the table. So let's just keep everyone in prayer and wish everyone have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if you're traveling, please be careful. And let's not forget the purpose of Christmas. And we all know what that is. I don't have to tell you. But let's always keep him first. And with that, I would say, God bless all of you. God bless America. And God bless Suffolk.
Councilmember Johnson.
And I'm going to keep it brief as well. But happy holidays. Happy holidays to everyone in Suffolk, and particularly those that need us to be thinking about them. There's, like the others just said, there's so many people out there that need to be in our thoughts and prayers. So remember them. Remember your family. One other comment, and then I'm going to thank Roger for sitting up here with me. Keep your cars locked. All of a sudden, it seems like there's a little wave of people going out and trying to break in cars again. Make sure your cars are locked in your neighborhoods. If you have anything in the car that looks like it could be of value, take it out. Put it under the seats. But this is just a little. My sister had an incident across from her house last night right here in one of our big communities. And beware, we can avoid that. So just keep your cars locked and be safe. Again, Merry Christmas. And Roger, I don't know what I'm going to do sitting over here not having you to look at. It's going to be interesting. But you've been on council longer than I have, and I've been on here plenty long. So I have appreciate our relationship, enjoy your friendship, look forward to seeing you after the fact, but a little envious. It's not going to be such a bad thing. You'll be all right. But thanks for being here. And with that, I'll say good night.
Oh, let's see, Councilman Rector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo Councilperson Butler Barlow's statements about this time of year being tough for a lot of people. It seems that the older that I get, the harder this time of year is, even for my own family, as we look back and reflect on those that we, as we say in our church, love but see no longer. So please remember, as she said, that this is not the happiest of times, nor the most joyful of times for a lot of people in our community. But with that being said, have a happy holiday and do your best to enjoy yourself, because this time of year only comes around, obviously, once a year. I would like to thank the folks at the Hortons Veterans Cemetery for inviting me to participate at the recent wreath-laying ceremony. They invited me to carry the wreath that represents the POWs and the MIAs, and it was an honor and a privilege beyond anything that I can describe to be able to participate in that and represent those individuals that are potentially still missing in action, were missing in action, or were prisoners of war. The sacrifices that they made for our country just cannot be enumerated and cannot be put into words. So I want to thank them again for that. Just recently, we held and it hadn't been held in a few years, the holiday tour. This year it went through the downtown area. Several churches were opened up. Several of the homes were opened up. It occurred in my borough, and I'm not going to take any credit for it. The only credit that I'm going to take is that I did my best to stay out of the organizers' way and just assist them with the city whenever they needed it. But the city really stepped up, and in an effort to not miss the folks at the city that really played a hand in making this a success. If you don't mind, I'd just like to read a couple of quick notes that were put together by the organizers. It took at least 6 departments working together with the Suffolk Nansemond Historical Society and countless citizens to make the tour happen. The city manager's office supported the tour and collaboration concept designed to spotlight downtown Suffolk, giving people multiple reasons to visit and spend the day. The city manager's office committed financially, created events, and solved problems. They did more than was asked, and their commitment was apparent to all who attended. Clean streets, closed streets to support foot traffic, and staffing to support for the police department. The Economic Development Department produced events broadening the scope of interest for different community audiences and children's activities. They also supported and assisted in our effort to reach out to all downtown businesses to encourage participation and introduce cross-marketing opportunities. And they promoted the weekend and the tour on social media channels. To the Tourism Department, they met every commitment and never let a ball drop. They found a workaround when the app wasn't recognized by Apple in time, instead of just saying, "I'm sorry that this is not going to happen." The entire staff was professional, creative, inspiring, and offered advice that truly made the tour more successful, as well as embracing the weekend in a way that gave it an independent and leading identity of which the tour could be a part. Teresa Earls, Kevin Sari, and Danielle Jernigan know their industry and perform at the highest level. They did everything we asked, everything they planned, and then some. I could not be more impressed or encouraged for Suffolk that this is the team in charge. To the Community Development Department, Kevin Alexander always responds in a very timely manner to issues and questions. He took the initiative to make sure that illegally parked cars or abandoned vehicles were moved and worked in conjunction with Public Works to make sure that the city lots were mowed and homeowners and property owners were noticed about non-compliant matters. To the Parks and Recreation, wonderful vision in bringing in the skating rink. It gives people a reason to come down and bring their children. While the rink may not be extremely successful this year, I hope that they will do it again and put it in the park where it can be seen. It would kill the grass, but sod is pretty inexpensive comparatively. Very cooperative with all aspects of permitting for the event. And then finally, Public Works. I'm fairly certain that they swept the streets more than once on Saturday and then again on Sunday. It took everyone in the city and everyone downtown to show Suffolk in its best light. I dare say that people saw downtown with renewed possibilities. And let's see, please extend my personal gratitude to all as chair of the tour, a board member of the Suffolk Nansemond Historical Society, board member of Preserving Historic Suffolk, and member of the Historic Landmarks Commission, but most importantly as a resident of the downtown historic neighborhood. And I can honestly say that I believe there were over 600 tickets sold. The event was a huge success, and I'm going to sum it up by what one person told me when he took his daughter on the tour that Saturday. He said, quote, "I was blown away by how good Suffolk looked." And with that, I will wish everybody a happy holidays. And to Roger, thank you very much for the brief time that we have served together on council. When I first came on, you took the time to help me, to mentor me, to explain to me some of the do's and the don'ts, and I genuinely appreciate that, and I wish you all but nothing but success in the future.
Councilman Williams. Thank you, Mayor. Let me start off by saying, Roger, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Last 4 years sitting up here with you. We didn't always agree, but we were civil, and we remained we're friends, and I appreciate you, and I'm wishing you the best, and whatever you decide to do, because I know you're going to do well. And thank you for your service to the city. I would like to thank the media, park and rec, police, fire, and rescue, and everyone involved in making this year Christmas parade a success. Great job, city manager, staff, excellent job. My word for the month of December is culture. Culture is a complex concept that encompasses the shared belief, values, and behavior and practices of a group or a group of people. With that, I'd like to say good night, have a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year.
Vice Mayor Ward.
Well, first one I want to say is very good job, Tim. You did a very good job. We could have called for the votes after you finished. You did a good job. And by knowing Tim like I think I know him, you meant what you said. Because everything, you get up here and you got a whole lot of pretending, but a lot of things is not politics. And sometimes things are used as politics, but I can say this, I do not try to do that. I do try to do what's best for my community and the city of Suffolk. And somewhat, Tim, I think you do the same thing. A lot of times you don't agree, but as you look at it for what's best for the city of Suffolk, you'll change. And then that's one thing, like I said, I'm saying that thank you again for what you have done, and you talk about the plan. You can't sit back and talk about how good the city is and how well you like what the employees are doing, and all of a sudden we got to play politics and get the votes. I mean, if you're going to say it, mean it. And that's what I try to do. Some things are, like they say, it's not hidden, it's right out front. And people come up here with different ideas and opinions. And some of them opinions that we can interrupt you, we can share, that's not true. But we have to sit and listen to that. I know one time they said tonight about being respectable, not disrespectful. We sit up here and represent the city. Not only we represent you, the city, and what we do, it is watched. It is watched. But sometimes people come up and play these favorite, like they got all the stats, they have all the answers, and sometimes they dead wrong. You had an opportunity, and you know, they probably said, why you saying it, but we had an opportunity, November 5th, decide where we going with the city. You had an opportunity. When you say they listening, it's not just one group. It's the whole city. You had that opportunity. Yes, we listening. Quite well. And they are listening. I've been on this council 12 years. I never seen the staff work as hard as they have to work for the comprehensive plan. They changed so much and tried to please that we had to look back and see what we changed. I would, like you said, if you're so perfect, walk on water. You know where that comes from. A lot of things we do is not pleasing to some of us, but some things you got to give in. Do what's best for this city. And when y'all sit back, when people sit back and just beat you in the head and tell you you're not doing a good job, you're not doing what's best for the city. No, this is not 1960, 1970, 1980. The city is growing. I've been here 30 years. I remember when they were outhouses. I remember up my area, there were dead bodies. I remember that, 30 years. And when I said outhouse, I'm just not saying northern Suffolk. It was all around the city. But look at us now. Look at us now. You talk about 58, 460. When you ride down back in my days, and before when I first came, you didn't see no stores, no traction, no traffic. How are you going to grow? See, I don't like to even talk about certain things because a lot of people get the wrong impression. But I have talked with a few of y'all, and I think it went well. Even if I didn't think you knew the truth, I didn't just try to embarrass you. But you come up here and say, we don't listen. You had an opportunity November 5th. The people have spoke, so we need to move on. There's a part in the newspaper, if you ever pick it up, that I do a newspaper. Look at Suffolk happenings, and look at some of the real truth of the voting. Look what the voting, how they voted, where they voted. Let's look at that. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And sometimes I sit here and listen to people smarter than me come up with some of these answers and come up with an argument. How are you going to build anything without no traffic? How are you going to build roads which you don't have? You have detours. Tell me how. From the sky? How are you going to do it? Do you either want it to grow or you don't? You got certain communities still not up to par, and we're working on it. I just sit here and I looked over this and said some of the things that some of the people come up in due respect. I think that's not where we're going. But then you come up there and say things to us that we don't have no feelings. Yes, we do have feelings. Yes, we do a hard work. Yes, we discuss things. I build a relationship, a friendship up here that I wouldn't have had when I wouldn't have been up here. And I do listen. 3 times, 4 times, yes, I do listen. And I said less than anybody else on this council. Because my heart is in not only my borough, but the whole city. I get phone calls from everywhere in this city. But one thing I do tell them, the truth, and direct them where you can talk with somebody that can help you. We got parts of the city that don't agree. We got parts of the city in the middle. So it's not when you just speak, we just saying, this group, you had an opportunity. You had an opportunity. And what happened was, y'all had a chance in the results of the voting. So I don't understand why you say we not listening or y'all not hearing us. I think we are. Well, I'd like to say Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. It's good to see one. Appreciate that. Like I said, some of the people who speak, my doors are always open. And I will speak to you and I will talk to you. But I'm not just going to make myself look like I can fix everything. And some of the things that we got to compromise. So if I have a whole lot of potential, look around the area. And then they talk about business. I think somebody came in here one time, might not be right, but they said 20,000 people leave this city every day to go to work. Why? Because some of the business here don't pay them enough, or we don't have the business they need. So how are we gonna do that? Well, I'm gonna say this here, because I don't put it like the others put it. So I had talked to you, Roger. Me and you came on together. And we came on together. The first vote we had, we went against, there's 3 of us, went against the school board. Do you remember that, Roger? But anyway, you know how I felt, and I told you earlier. I'm going to miss you because one thing about it, some of the things you might address, some of us don't want to address, and you do. You will address it. If they like the truth or not, sometimes the truth will come out you. The way you say it, maybe they don't like it, but you're telling them the truth. And I respect that from you. Me and you we had our days. But in the end, you feel the same way I feel. You want the best for the city of Suffolk and the people. They can't say that about you. They can say a lot of other things. They might not know the way you said it, but but you want the best. And you will make sure you are heard. Like you said, man, I know it's not the end of you. I miss you too, man. But like you told me, and I feel the same way, just give me a call, and I will, just to see how you feel about it. Because your heart is in Suffolk, and I know that. With that, I say, Merry Christmas again to all. Oh yeah, one more thing. I want to say, congratulations, Spartans. We got Michael Vick is our new coach at Norfolk State University. All the Spartans out of y'all clapping at home. We got a new football coach at Norfolk State.
The Humane Society.
With that, I say, God bless.
Okay, Councilmember Fawcett, go on and jump in there, buddy.
Well, you know, I pondered about how we were gonna roll out tonight, and you know, I got a few things I would like to just bring up. This has been a journey for the last 12 years, and I like the statement that came out and said, "How far we have come. Suffolk is like no other." And I think that is a true statement if there ever was one. I can remember taking the oath of office 12 years ago in an old municipal building that sat behind here. We hadn't even come up with getting a new municipal building just yet. And when I took that oath of office, I said there was one thing I was always going to do, whether people liked me, didn't like me, or didn't care what I had to say. I would always tell you what I had on my mind, and it always didn't come out the way you probably would have liked it, but it was no hard feelings about it. Sometimes I just say it the way it is. And I know people have a hard time with that. But I still appreciate everybody, even those that have a lot of negative to talk about that don't even know who I am. So, or even where I've came from. So, you know, I can remember that, and I took that oath to make sure that I did the best job for this city that I could possibly do. Was I perfect? No. Nobody up here will be. I can assure you of that. But everybody tries to put their best foot forward. And you look around where we're at today, whether you like it or don't like it, this is a great city. It's going to continue to be a great city. And the people that are here are going to continue to be great people. And those that want to come should be welcome to come. But as we moved along, when I first came here, we were in trouble. Our finances were not great. We had to make several sacrifices to even get started to where we're at today. We didn't have a AAA bond, and a lot of people always blow off that AAA bond, and I don't understand why, because if they know what economics are about and finances, that is the one thing that every city would love to have, that a lot do not have. That gets you where you want to try to get to as you move ahead as a city. You know, we had a company called Davenport Finance Group out of Richmond. And I got to know David Rose quite well over my 12 years. He's a very brilliant financial advisor. Brilliant financial advisor. And he helped steer us in the right direction. And I give a lot of credit to the Davenport group for that, because they helped us along the way. And we eventually got to that AAA bond rating, and then things began to start coming together, and our finances are, as one gentleman said, we seem to have the most money per person in this city. Well, we wouldn't have got there if we hadn't have done some of the things we've done. That just didn't happen. I mean, it took a lot of hard work of the previous councils. I've sat with 2 mayors, 3 city managers. And it had taken everybody that was on those councils to get to where we're at. Everybody. No one person gets you there. You have to work as a group. You have to work as a team. You have to work as much as you can to take in all the input that you get and try to mold it into something that's going to come out as a product that can work. You know, it's city services. You just look at the city services around here. You know, your public works department is spot on. One of the best public works departments I think I've seen. And our utility department is just stellar. I mean, they're the people that keep our water flowing and take care of our sanitary systems and all the things they're involved in. And we're fortunate that we have 2 great directors and great supervisors and personnel that work in those departments that are getting us where we're at today. Our fire and our police officers are the best. We're at the top. Chief Bowie, we're at the top. And we're going even higher. And you got to reach high. Our fire department is second to none. They are, you dial that 911, buddy, you're going to get some help as quicker, if not sooner. You're going to look out, and they're going to be looking at you at your door or wherever you might be. They are, both fire and police and our sheriff's department are just great folks. You know, I don't want to discount our sheriff's department because they do a great job at doing our civil duties and as well as taking care of our courthouse and our judges. They do a phenomenal job over there, and I appreciate all of them over there. When I came on here, we were struggling to build schools, and we still are. We're still not where we really need to be, but we have to have cooperation on both sides of that aisle to get them schools that we need to have. It can't be one-sided. You can't just put a figure on it and it comes through here and it gets where it's going, because it does not work that way. We managed to build, actually we had one school that was already in operation, which was Southwestern. At one time it was called Pioneer, but we switched it to Southwestern. I just came on and we had dedicated that school. And then shortly after that, I worked with some of the school board members to help them with getting 2 schools on the north end, which was Florence Bowser and Fred Cherry. We built those schools for around the 60 million mark, both schools with the lights on, somewhere in there. 2 schools. We're building 1 school today, JFK, it's costing us $75 million. That's 1 school. So you look at how things have changed economically when everybody comes and says, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. If you don't have your tax base to help support it, you cannot get to where you're going. Things come to a stop and you die. It's just like when the heart stops. So, you know, we've got a new library we're building right down the street, new rec center in the north end, several improvements. I got to give my hats off to Parks and Rec. They've done a great job. Parks and Rec has done a phenomenal job bringing things up for our citizens. Great amenities with pool expansions and upgrades, and you name it, they're just doing a phenomenal job. And I appreciate that, because some of the things that we do, we wouldn't be able to do without Parks and Rec and our staff and our employees to help us out. I had the greatest privilege and opportunity to serve as the chair and vice chair of VML for 4 years. I had 2 years as vice chair and 2 years as chair. One of the best times I ever had. Of course, it was a lot of work in Richmond, but I learned a lot, believe it or not, and some people might disagree with it, but I learned a lot from all the counties and communities and cities that were involved in that process. We set good guidance to go up to the General Assembly. We put some good stuff together. And it was a privilege to sit there in that group of folks. And if you don't know what VML is, it's the Virginia Municipal League. And everybody sits on it or has an opportunity up here to sit on it. But there's other, you might sit as a subgroup, but there's a lot of people that could move up into higher positions if they so choose to do that. Stay open, council, to economic development in your community. You got to build, and you're going to have to control your building a little bit, but you got to move forward. You can't allow yourself to be put in a position that you don't have growth. Bring that economic engine to your city. Open arms, bring it here. For every business you can bring here, you got that opportunity for your people that live, that want to work inside of your city, will have the opportunity to do so. Many people travel out of here and go to Norfolk and Virginia Beach and Chesapeake, and the tunnel is going to get much more expensive in the next 20 years. You will be paying prices unbelievable. That has a 50-year cap going up on it. They may make some adjustments in the long run, but you talk about riding on the roadways, you won't have a roadway in the Commonwealth of Virginia in the next 10 years that you don't pay a toll on. They're going to find a way to get that revenue. So, council, stay vigilant to your economic engine and your growth. You can do smart growth, controlled growth, but stay bringing those people that want to come here. You know, for the city employees, I've never had a city employee ever say something to me that was out of line or wasn't professional. And we don't, what you have to understand up here is council does not control the employees in this city. That's not what we're here for. Now, we have the right to ask the employees a lot of things, but we don't control these employees. So you can't go out and say, I want you to do this, or why can't you do that? You got to direct that through your city manager so that he controls the channels on how things get done. Those city employees are just, I'm telling you, they're great employees. They're not going to get rich doing this job. But we're creeping up to getting to a point in the pay scale to be competitive enough to keep good employees here. And you got to continue to do that. You got to continue to help them with their pay and benefits. You got to do it. You can't keep quality people here if you don't pay them. So continue to take care of those employees. For the supervisors that supervise those employees, my hat's off. You guys are doing a great, gals are doing a great job. Everybody is, I see there may be some differences of opinion, but I see those supervisors doing a very good job taking care of their employees. The city clerks that work here, Erica and Tracy, that have been in the city clerk's office since the day I came here. You've done a great job keeping me informed and sometimes grounded. And I always have respected your opinion when I would ask you something. No matter how we differ on it, we I respect that. So I want to thank you both for everything you've done for me since I've been here on the council. For the staff, for every staff person in this city, you are a phenomenal staff of folks. I say that no matter where you sit, what department you are in, you're phenomenal people. You look out for your employees, and you can't ask no more than that. From the city manager's office, Mr. Aziz and Mr. Hughes, I've kind of burned their phones up quite often. I thank you for your support in helping me get to where I want to go. For Al Moore, thank you for your leadership, your honesty, your guidance, and your commitment to wanting to make this city even as great as it is today, even better. Phenomenal people. You can take that every day when you go home, that you got great people taking care of our city. For all those things that we've had in the last few days, from the holiday parade to, all the events we have, Taste of Suffolk and everything, I want to thank all the employees and everybody that was involved and the volunteers in that, because you can't do some of these things without some volunteers. You can't run a peanut fest without volunteers. This year, I think, was one of the most successful peanut fests out there. The Rudington Club put on a great shrimp feast, and it was just phenomenal. And it just goes to show you what you can see. You open your eyes and appreciate things. Sometimes I wish people came up here with more positive things than everything we get has got a negative spin to it. I can't tell you how many emails I've gotten in 12 years that I can't count how many positives they are. Nobody comes with that. They always come with, oh, this is not good and that's not good. And it's mind-boggling. You don't really feel the effects of this job until you sit here. You have to sit here in order to feel it. But you have to respect the ones that are sitting here that are trying to do the best thing, whether you agree or disagree. You have to try to give some decency and respect. And that has not always been out there. Billy, thank you for what you've done over there in your office. You've done a phenomenal job. You've taken that place up to new heights. Couldn't believe how much we've turned since you've been here, and how you've taken and handled our public when they need help. And I appreciate all the things when I sent them to your phone instead of mine. And believe it or not, I don't think I've gotten one phone call, or two maybe if I was lucky, since you've been here. So that attributes to everything you're doing in your department is spot on. Continue to do the work, continue to take care of you folks over there. I want to thank all of my constituents in the Sleepy Hollow Borough. I appreciate you have stood with me for 12 years. We ran this year, and we might not have come up. We missed it by a few votes, but that's okay. That's a part of democracy and the life we live. So it's all good. But I want to thank each one of those people in that Sleepy Hollow borough, because that's a great borough. I can't tell you I didn't have a lot of people complaining about things more so than I've heard through some of the other boroughs. So I appreciate those folks that were out there. For Ebony Wright, congratulations to you. I wish you well. Stiffen up, because you're going to need one when you get in this chair. You're going to find out real quick how that's going to work. But take care of the borough. I want to thank my wife. She has stood and took sacrifices in the past 12 years. And that's another thing people don't realize, the sacrifices that our families take along the way. And we are that's the way we wanted it, but that doesn't always mean they always accept the sacrifices. And tomorrow I will have my 45th anniversary with my wife, and she's been just a rock. I'm going to tell you what. You don't move that one too quick. She's pretty good. To my 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, who are doing fantastic work. Both of them are teachers. My son's a vice president of operations for a company, and he's doing a phenomenal job. And I have the 8 grandkids that keep me rolling, and they're all just doing wonderful. So with that, I conclude my 12 years on this dais. Mayor Duman, thank you for your friendship, your leadership, your support, and most of all, the many conversations we may have had at different things. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate each one of you council members that have been here, and I appreciate your words that you've spoken tonight. Because I've worked with, I feel I have anyway, worked with a few different council folks on this dais, and most all, they've all been great people, and I've really appreciated that. I've had 34 years in government, 12 years with the state, and, I take this as my family group up here amongst everybody that I've worked with, and I've surely worked with a lot of people. So I conclude with that, Mr. Mayor. I want to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone. Please be safe. Enjoy your loved ones. And if you know someone that's less fortunate out there, don't be afraid to lend a hand, because you'll come back twofold to you. So again, thank you and good night.
Okay, I believe Vice Mayor Ward, did you have one other thing you'd like to say?
Yes, I made a mistake. It wasn't the school board, because I ain't going to vote against the school board. It was the budget. Me and Roger, we voted against the budget the first year.
That was bothering me. I didn't say something. I don't let him get that off his chest.
It was all right.
I know it's getting late. I'll be very brief. I do want to talk about a few things that have gone on in the city in the last week or so. The city employee Christmas party is always a special event here where the employees get together at lunchtime to celebrate the holidays, and once again, the morale that I've been able to witness over the last couple of years is just off the chart, and that starts at the top. I'm not trying to blow your head up, Mr. Manager, but that comes from the top, doesn't come from the bottom. And I believe that the vast majority of all our employees, regardless of what department they live in, truly work in, truly enjoy their jobs and serving the citizens of Suffolk. I was, went to the Rotary Club auction. I got to be the auctioneer, which was a lot of fun. They raise a lot of money to Suffolk Rotary Club every year, several thousands of dollars for charitable organizations. So I thank them for what they do, as well as a lot of other organizations in our city and individuals that open up their hearts and open up their pocketbooks at this time of the year. For those that are less fortunate, we had our, I don't know if they call it a city council Christmas party. I call it a city Christmas party. We had just had a reception last Friday, which was very well attended. I want to thank all those that came. Councilman Rector spoke about the wreath-laying ceremony at Albert Horton VA Cemetery, which is within walking distance of my house. He also mentioned that he got to lay the wreath for the MIAs and POWs and represented the city very well, I might add. You're almost in step with everybody, and you did a great job. I got to talk to the guest speaker, who was Captain David Gray. He's the commanding officer of the Joint Expeditionary Base in Little Creek, Fort Story. He's a captain, lives here in Suffolk, and we had a lot in common. I think he was born in Massachusetts, and most people don't know it, but so was I. Plus, he graduated from Old Dominion. But most importantly, he says, I'm going to retire in about a year and a half. And he wanted my card, and he said, I want to let you know that I'm going to retire in the city of Suffolk. I've been to a lot of places, and this is where I'm going to call my home once I retire. And he's not the first individual that's done that. So, I mean, it gives you kind of the warm and fuzzies when that's coming from a Navy captain who's been probably around the world and halfway across the United States and decides he's going to make Suffolk his home. So we got to be doing a little bit of something right. Not sure what it is, but at least a little bit. I attended a meeting at the Western Tidewater Community Service Board along with our Deputy City Manager, Z. Felder, in regards to handling emergency custody orders and their crisis intervention team and some initiatives that we're looking at as a region, the same members that are members of the regional jail. So I'm looking forward to what comes out of that little bit of brainstorming and see how it can benefit, really our those individuals that have mental health issues and our law enforcement people and really our city overall. I think it would be a really good return on investment if it comes out okay. Roger, I'm not going to sit here and, I don't want to, before I talk about Roger, let me just say one thing. It's the end of the year. Oh, I forgot to put my glasses on. Oh, my God. Hold on a minute. Put my glasses on. And I didn't used to have to wear these other glasses behind us so I could see, but I can't see without them. So I got to do both. So I'm not going to talk about what's going on this year, but we got a lot of good stuff that's going on this year. I'm very, very proud of what we've been able to accomplish. I want to thank council. I want to thank the city manager. I want to thank the staff. I want to thank the citizens. There's always more we could have done, but when you look back on not only what we've accomplished, but what we put in motion going forward, I couldn't be happier and more proud of everybody up on this dais. And just I mentioned, the manager, the staff, everybody's come together. We've had our little disagreements, but everybody, basically we talk, we communicate. And communication is what makes the world go round. And so we'll talk about that later, maybe investiture time. All right, now I got to talk about Roger. That's the hard part. So I tried to make some stuff up here that sounded good. No, I'm serious. But I mean, it's been 12 years. 12 years doesn't sound like much when you spit it out, but that's about how long it took me to get out of elementary school. But really, it starts, I mean, that's really your whole education from first grade through 12th grade. You think of everything that can happen in 12 years, where we were 12 years ago. I've been doing it just a couple years longer than you, and the biggest thing that I can see is I have an ID card. I didn't have any white hair at all 14 years ago. I mean, zero, none. But that's a lot. And we talk about what commitment it takes, the sacrifice that you make. And I mentioned it a little bit, I probably shouldn't have earlier, but I don't think the public really understands the sacrifice that it takes to do this job and to do it right. To sit up here and represent people, if you're pure of heart and you want to make the best decisions possible, it's not only time consuming, but sometimes it's very frustrating because you can't satisfy all the people all the time. I always say the easiest decisions are between right and wrong. Those are no-brainers. This is right and that's wrong. But 99.9% of the decisions we have to make, there is no right or wrong. Not definitively, not morally. It's just a matter of weighing the pros and the cons and doing your best in that analysis, not only as it affects everyone now, but what it might be 5, 10, 15, or 20 years ago. And the most difficult decisions that I've made are not necessarily they're the non-popular ones. The popular ones are easy. So I want to thank you. I mean, we're losing 12 years worth of experience. I mean, I think Ms. Wright's going to be able to fill the gap, but it'll take some time because experience is experience. I believe the will, the desire, and the intelligence is going to be there, so that's not going to be an issue. That's 12 budgets. It's 12 capital improvement plans. It's 3 comp plans. It's an endless number of conditional use permits and rezonings and land use issues. It's addressing the municipal code, what the penalties are for certain things. You've been a staunch supporter of public safety as anyone I've seen, and I'm sure they're going to probably miss you worse than anybody else is, especially the fire department. But both fire and police they're going to miss you. Probably, we're going to miss you too, but they're really going to miss you. But it's been a good thing, because when you look back at where we are now as a city, and you look at our fire and rescue, and you look at our police department, I couldn't agree with Councilman Fawcett more. We've got the best department around, period, on both ends of it. I mean, we really do. Our response times, our citizen satisfaction, the level of service that we're able to provide, the confidence that our citizens have in both departments, the relationships that have taken years to build. I mean, they're evident. And that's one of the things that makes, if not it is one of the most important things that makes the city as great as it is that relationship. I watch a little bit of news every morning. I read the paper every morning, and I look at some localities, and I said, boy, I'm sure glad that's not us. And I'm going to go back to, you've been a big part of everything that we've been able to accomplish, because one person, we were talking about that the other day, one person doesn't make any decisions up here. People call me all the time and say, well, how come this didn't happen, that didn't happen? And I explain to them, when you get elected mayor, you don't get elected king. There's processors that have to be followed. There's rules as far as what you can and can't do. And when it comes down to it, it takes 5 individuals on this dais to make any decisions that amount to anything. And I'm very proud very, very proud of this council, and I'm privileged to serve with every one of you. And just, like I said, Roger, your 12 years of service should not be taken lightly. And I can tell you that it wasn't 3 days after the election that that guy right there came up to me and said, Mike, I need you to find me something to do. That's exactly what he said. He wasn't bitter about anything. He just said, Mike, I don't plan on, find me something to do. I want to do this. I want to do that. So in a lot of situations, that wouldn't have been the case. A lot of people would have said, blah, 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 I'm out of here, have a nice life. But he didn't. And I don't make stuff up. Anybody knows me, I don't make stuff up. That's exactly what he said, and he meant it when he said it. So my hat's off to you. I'm proud to have served with you up here. I'm proud to call you my friend, and thank you for everything that you've done. And with that, I'm going to leave you with one little season greeting and my quote of the night. And my season greeting is, may this season bring peace to your hearts, joy to your homes, and hope for the future. I wish you and your loved ones a season filled with happiness and a bright and prosperous new year. And my quote of the night is one I've used multiple times from Benjamin Franklin. It has to do with the new year. And that is, be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every new year find you a better man. And if we can all adhere to that, we'll all be a lot better off. And with that, I'd like to ask for a motion for adjournment. And we will get our last motion for adjournment in the last meeting of the year, at the last meeting with Council Member Fawcett. And we get a motion for approval from Councilman Fawcett. We didn't have his mic on?
Motion to
Okay, do it one more time. All right, do it again. You want to make a motion for approval again?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion approval. Do we hear a second? Council Member Butler Barlow.
Second.
And we got a motion for, we have a second. Do we have any discussion in the motion? Hearing none. Council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
Motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
This meeting stands adjourned, and we will see you next year.